Sora stands before an iron cage, considering the purchase of a battered and bloodied slave. When Sora asks the price, the merchant coldly reveals the cost is a steep 250,000 G. Sora steals her resolve, clutching a heavy bag of gold with an intense and determined expression. With a sudden shout, she points to the cage and declares she is buying this specific slave. Sora walks alongside a tall, blindfolded warrior carrying a massive blade behind his back. Trembling in line at the town hall, Sora realizes her turn for registration is finally approaching. The scene shifts to the Bjorg City Town Hall, where the grim business of the Slave Registration Bureau takes place. A clerk calls out for Sora Ono as she steps forward, her bare feet dragging across the stone floor. Sora confirms her identity to the official as she is directed further into the bureau. Sora reflects on her tragic past, remembering how she first entered this world as an 11-year-old girl. She laments the harsh reality of her life, having lived in bondage as a slave ever since that day. Exhaustion weighs heavily on Sora, her eyes rimmed with fatigue as she struggles to stay awake. Hallucinations of the word, sleepy, fill her vision while she desperately tries to fight off the urge to collapse. Sora thinks back to the previous day, wishing the client had bought her so she could have avoided this current misery. She walks away dejectedly, knowing that missing that opportunity has led her to this breaking point. The narrative shifts back to an earlier encounter where a prospective client evaluates the available slaves. The merchant asks the client what kind of slave he prefers as Sora waits nervously in the background. The elderly client hums in contemplation, looking over Sora with a critical and discerning eye. Sora flinches in fear as the man notes her small stature with apparent disappointment. The man roughly grips Sora's arm, demanding that she lift her head and show him her face. Sora staggers under his physical force, letting out a pained cry as she struggles to remain upright. The merchant quickly apologizes for Sora's clumsiness as she nearly falls to the ground. Suspicious of her weakness, the client asks if the girl is ill, but the merchant insists she is healthy. The man dismisses her, stating he has no use for a slave with a weak lower body and requires someone sturdy. Despite the merchant's desperate pleas to reconsider, the client decides to leave without making a purchase. Enraged by the lost sale, the merchant cracks his knuckles with a terrifying and menacing look. Sora flinches in absolute terror, realizing that the merchant's frustration is about to be turned on her. The merchant kicks Sora and screams that if her lower body is weak, she must be trained through punishment. He sentences her to a brutal ordeal, forcing her to stand in place the entire night without a wink of sleep. Sora attempts to protest the unfair punishment, but her words are cut short by her own fear. A sharp crackle fills the air followed by a pained scream as the merchant enforces his cruel command. Sora stands alone in the dark corridor, swaying with exhaustion and whispering how tired she has become. Sora stands trembling, her bare feet barely supporting her as she feels her legs reaching their absolute physical limit. Exhausted and unsteady, Sora realizes that her lack of sleep will likely lead to a repeat of yesterday's brutal punishment. Sora dreads returning to the merchant's place, knowing the horrible treatment that awaits her there. She laments her luck, wishing desperately that the customer from the previous day had purchased her to spare her this misery. Back at the registration desk, the official prepares to process the paperwork for Sora Ono. The official reviews her records, speaking her name aloud as Sora waits in silent apprehension. A moment of confusion strikes Sora as she wonders if there has been some kind of mistake in her processing. The official orders Sora to stand up and move closer to the desk for the final stage of the procedure. With a sudden movement, the official reaches out towards Sora. Sora reacts with shock and confusion as the man's hand approaches her. The official begins chanting a powerful resolving spell, calling upon light to complete the ritual. He commands the magical bonds to be released, and Sora's neck collar begins to glow with intense light. With a sharp snap, the collar that marked Sora's bondage suddenly breaks apart. The heavy metal pieces of her shackles fall to the floor with a loud, metallic clank. Sora stands frozen in disbelief, staring down at her bare neck and the broken remnants of her slavery. The official calmly bids Sora a nice day, acting as though this life-changing moment was merely routine work. Sora can barely find the words to respond, stuttering a polite reply in a state of total shock. Seeing Sora clutching her broken shackles, the official offers to dispose of the scraps since it is no longer required. Sora politely declines the offer as the official kindly points her toward the exit. Stepping out, Sora is momentarily blinded by the sheer intensity of the light. Sora stands at the threshold of the massive doors, looking out into a world she never expected to enter as a free person. The realization of her situation begins to sink in as she processes the official's actions. Overwhelmed by a sudden shock, Sora screams in realization that she is no longer a slave. Nearby, a passing carriage driver yells out in surprise at her sudden, frantic outburst. The driver gives her a suspicious glance as he continues down the street, leaving Sora alone in her confusion. Sora flinches under the scrutiny, still struggling to comprehend her sudden change in status. Running away from the bureau, Sora wonders how and why her life of bondage has come to such an abrupt end. Sora recalls the merchant's cruel words from earlier that day, when he decided to change her registration. The merchant had raged that she was a good-for-nothing labor slave, and vowed to rebrand her to increase her selling price. With a sinister grin, the merchant explained that a flimsy girl like her would fetch a higher price as a pet slave. He informed her that he had already contacted the bureau and that she would be sent to their office immediately. Sora remembers her panic at the time, realizing that this move to the registration office was supposed to be her doom. A commanding voice orders Sora to leave the premises immediately, forcing her out into the unknown. Sora walks away with a heavy heart, her expression visibly drained and despondent as she faces the open road. She realizes that the slave trader made a clerical error when contacting the office, which miraculously led to her release. Panic sets in as she understands she must flee immediately, or they will flag the mistake and drag her back into slavery. Focusing on her bare feet moving across the ground, she resolves to put as much distance as possible between herself and her captors. After wandering into a desolate wasteland, the adrenaline fades, and she admits to herself that she is starving. She loses track of time, unsure if she has been walking for 2 days or 3, only knowing the journey has been exhausting. Thirst becomes her primary torture, and she suffers greatly from the harsh reality of having no food or water. A hallucination brings back a warm memory of a man telling her that meals taste better when eaten together. In the memory, he smiles brightly and asks if she made the breakfast, praising the meal. He looks at her with love and calls her his angel, a stark contrast to her current isolation. Snapping back to her grim reality, Sora wonders how her father is doing while she trudges onward. Her legs finally give out, and she wobbles dangerously as exhaustion completely overtakes her. She recalls her time cooking as a slave, wishing desperately for a taste of proper Japanese food. Visions of delicious ramen, sandwiches, and omelette rice float through her mind, taunting her hunger. She mutters a list of foods she craves, fixating on omu rice and sandwiches as she stumbles. A small house appears in the distance, but her body fails her and she collapses face-first into the dirt before reaching it. Sora groans in confusion as she slowly wakes up, finding herself in an unfamiliar bed. Still delirious from starvation, she instinctively orders one shoyu ramen, as if she were at a restaurant. She fumbles for non-existent money, dazedly asking how much the bill is. An intense, wrinkled face looms directly above her, staring down with piercing eyes. Sora blinks rapidly, her vision clearing enough to realize a stranger is hovering inches from her face. She screams in absolute terror and scrambles backward, shocked by the sudden appearance. In her panic, she slams the back of her head hard against the bed frame with a loud knock. An old woman in a hooded cloak watches her struggle while Sora clutches her head, crying out in pain. Sora asks who the woman is, but the stranger simply scolds her for ambushing people and causing a scene. The old woman leans in with a mysterious air and introduces herself as a witch. She grins creepily, telling Sora she dropped in front of the house and that she plans to eat ya later. Sora freezes in horror, staring at the witch while thinking, "You got to be kidding." The witch immediately drops the scary act, casually admitting it was just a lie to mess with her. She offers Sora some food, causing Sora to think to herself what a strange granny she has encountered. Driven by desperate hunger, Sora shoves the entire piece of bread into her mouth at once. She immediately regrets the speed as the dry food gets stuck, causing her to choke violently. She gasps for air, barely managing to swallow the massive bite before she chokes to death. Inspecting the food, she realizes it is moldy bread, but the witch warns her not to complain since she is poor. The witch insists the mold is still good enough to eat, leaving Sora to look at the green spots with hesitation. The witch tells her to drink water as well, emphasizing that she needs to recover her stamina quickly. She explains that there is hard work to be done, and it will be troublesome if Sora lacks the energy. Sora sips the water thoughtfully, the ominous phrase, hard work, echoing in her mind. She watches the witch turn away, feeling a deep sense of unease about what labor awaits her at a witch's house. Sitting alone in the bed, Sora trembles slightly, wondering anxiously what exactly she will be forced to do. Sora, having narrowly escaped a life-threatening situation, begins a new chapter of her life under uncertain conditions. Adjusting to her new reality, Sora addresses the old woman who rescued her as Master, while performing labor like fetching water. The witch provides Sora with a relentless list of chores, demanding that stained clothes be washed by the end of the day. Sora carries heavy wooden buckets of water back and forth, closely monitored by the stern old woman. The witch commends Sora's compliant attitude, remarking that she expects her to work with the efficiency of a washing machine. Despite the physical strain, Sora maintains a polite facade, repeatedly acknowledging her master's orders with a forced smile. Grunting under the weight, Sora continues her tasks, struggling to move heavy iron cauldrons across the workspace. The labor is constant, and Sora finds herself overwhelmed by the sheer size and weight of the kitchen equipment she must clean. The master adds herb gardening to the list, warning Sora that watering the leaves instead of the roots will cause the plants to sunburn and become useless. Sora is carefully instructed to focus water only on the roots to preserve the valuable medicinal herbs. Growing impatient and hungry, the witch leans on her staff and commands Sora to begin preparing dinner immediately. Sora exhaustedly agrees to the request, her weariness beginning to show through her polite responses. The master reminds Sora about the medicine distribution scheduled for the following day, ensuring everything is ready at the door. She emphasizes the importance of doing the job correctly, as selling the medicine is their primary means of making a living. Sora enthusiastically promises to handle the task with pleasure, eager to remain in her master's good graces. Sora reflects on her situation. What started as helping out for a single night and a meal as a favor has stretched into 3 months of labor. The tasks have shifted from simple favors into a permanent, demanding routine. Sora wonders how she ended up in this position, feeling the weight of the endless work. She secretly complains that the old lady is far too rough with people, treating her more like a servant than a guest. Sora hangs large sheets of laundry out to dry in the wind, a never-ending part of her domestic duties. After finishing the laundry, Sora takes a deep breath and prepares herself to start cooking the evening meal. The master demands to be called as soon as the food is ready, showing little regard for Sora's efforts. The old woman leaves to rest, mentioning she is going to sleep with her little one. Sora watches her master walk away, noticing her shivering and hunched posture as she approaches the herb cabinets. Now alone in the kitchen, Sora realizes the full burden of the household rests entirely on her shoulders. Sora's thoughts turn toward her master's declining health, feeling that something is wrong. She observes that the old woman is in worse shape than before, noting that she is eating less and sleeping much more. Carrying a heavy bundle of firewood, Sora expresses a genuine, quiet hope that her master will be okay. While scrubbing a bucket, Sora lists her master's many flaws, thinking of her as mean, foul-mouthed, and scary. Her inner monologue continues, describing the witch as unmannerly, dirty, stingy, arrogant, and selfish. Despite the long list of grievances and the woman's disgusting attitude, Sora pauses to consider the alternative. Sora admits that despite everything, the old woman provided her with a roof over her head and food when she had nothing. Sora reflects on her meager diet, realizing she hasn't eaten anything besides vegetable soup and moldy bread for a long time. She acknowledges that while her master has a notoriously bad temper, there is a hidden layer to the woman's character. Despite the harsh treatment, Sora senses an underlying kindness within the old woman. The master suddenly interrupts Sora's thoughts, stating gravity that they need to have a serious talk. Looking weary and solemn, the old woman delivers a shocking command. Sora needs to leave the house immediately. Stunned by the sudden rejection, Sora can only gasp in disbelief as she tries to process the order. The master claims she is simply tired of looking after Sora, using the excuse to push her away. She further justifies the expulsion by telling Sora that she has been exploited for far too long. Coldly declaring that Sora is no longer needed, the old woman attempts to finalize their separation. Sora frantically protests, questioning how the master could possibly continue making medicine without her help. The master barks at her to shut up, her face tight with a mixture of annoyance and strain. She stubbornly insists that she has always managed on her own and can easily do so again. Sora sees through the facade, instantly recognizing the old woman's claims as a blatant lie. Observing the master's declining physical strength, Sora knows the woman can no longer handle daily life alone. With sudden resolve, Sora shouts a defiant, "Yes. as she prepares to fight for her place in the home. Breaking into tears, Sora clings to the bedding and screams that she isn't going anywhere. In a desperate plea, she calls the master a stingy old hag and begs to be exploited even more. The master is taken aback by the insult, indignantly asking who Sora is calling a stingy old hag. Sora throws a tantrum, pounding her fists against the bed and repeating her refusal to leave. The old woman looks down at the crying girl, dismissively calling her a little brat. Realizing Sora's stubbornness won't break, the master finally relents and agrees to let her stay. The narrative shifts forward, marking the passage of 1 week since the confrontation. With tears still in her eyes, Sora accepts the master's decision, though the woman repeats that she cannot leave Sora there any longer. This chapter concludes with a credit page from u/mofarts and breath oven scans, thanking readers for following the story. Sora stands by the door, marking the passage of time as she whispers that 1 week has passed. The narrative reveals the lie of her departure, jumping forward to 1 week later as she remains by her master's side. The master lies motionless in bed, her breathing shallow as age and illness take their toll. Terrified by the stillness, Sora cries out in panic, begging her master not to die. The old woman wakes abruptly, complaining that Sora is making so much noise and clarifying she is not dead yet. She declares their bond ended a week ago, admitting she is getting weaker and implying the end is near. With a dismissive gesture, the master orders Sora to get out of the house immediately. Sora refuses to leave, pleading to stay with her master until the very end. The master rejects this devotion, stating that she does not want Sora to witness her final moments. Defeated by the stern command, Sora lowers her head and whispers her obedience. Gesturing toward the furniture, the master instructs Sora to take a specific item with her before she goes. A folded gray garment sits waiting on top of the wooden dresser. Picking up the fabric, Sora examines it in confusion and asks what it is. The master reveals the item is a medicinal robe, a garment of significance. Hesitant, Sora questions her right to have it, noting that she is not a magician. The master scoffs, retorting that one does not need to be a medicinal witch just to wear a dressing gown. Overcome with emotion, Sora thanks her master for the thoughtful gift. The old woman then hands over a heavy bag, commanding Sora to take that as well. When Sora asks what is inside, the master simply states that it belongs to her now. Sora gasps in pure shock as she realizes the weight and contents of the sack. Opening it reveals a dazzling collection of gold coins spilling over. The bag is filled to the brim with a substantial fortune in gold. The master casually estimates the value at roughly 700,000 gold. Sora calculates this equals 3 months of a new soldier's pay, stunned by the sheer amount. The master advises her not to waste the money, leaving Sora wondering why she received so much. Sora asks if the money was stolen, but the master denies the accusation immediately. She explains that she saved this fortune over a lifetime of work with her old bones. Clutching the bag to her chest, Sora feels the warmth radiating from the coins. The master insists she no longer needs the money, though Sora worries about leaving her destitute. She jokes about bribing her way through hell but notes that money is useless in the afterlife. Sora smiles gently, trying to comfort her master by claiming that hell does not exist. The master's expression darkens as she stares back, chillingly insisting that there is indeed a hell. Sora stands frozen, her wide eyes reflecting the shock of her sudden departure. Clad in a traveler's cloak with a pack on her back, she looks back one last time at the only home she has known for months. In the end, there was no tearful goodbye as Sora finally stepped away from her master's house. She recalls her final moments at the cottage, standing outside the stone walls where her life just shifted forever. Sora whispers a quiet thank you for the help and shelter she received during her long stay. Inside, the master remains reclined, dismissively announcing her intention to take a nap as if nothing has changed. Without looking up, the old woman barks a final order for Sora to stop dawdling and just go. Sora turns away, accepting the master's harsh exterior while keeping her own resolve steady. She considers the master's future, hoping the old woman lives long enough to see her medicine supplier again. With a heavy heart, Sora offers a final, silent goodbye to the woman she once called master. She arrives in a bustling town dominated by large, stone buildings and a towering church spire. Standing in the middle of the street, Sora panics as she realizes she left without any plan for what to do next. Having been a slave her entire life, she feels completely overwhelmed by her lack of knowledge about the world. Suddenly, a man nearly collides with her, shouting a warning as Sora stumbles back in surprise. The man scolds her for standing in a daze, telling her it is dangerous to be so oblivious in the street. Sora clutches her belongings tightly, remembering she must be careful not to let her meager money be stolen. She tries to blend into the crowd, her hood pulled low as she navigates the unfamiliar surroundings. Sora quietly acknowledges the danger, her face hidden in shadows as she regains her composure. She decides her first priority must be to buy a map so she can finally choose a destination. Sora wanders through the marketplace, scanning the stalls while repeating "map" to herself like a mantra. After searching through the various vendors, her eyes light up as she finally spots what she needs. She approaches a stall and points at a map, nervously asking the merchant to give it to her. The young merchant looks up in confusion, his expression puzzled by Sora's abrupt request. Stunned by the encounter, the man blinks at her, unsure of how to respond to the cloaked girl. A young man and a hooded girl collide in a clumsy accident, sending them both reeling with a startled gasp. Recovering quickly, the stranger apologizes profusely, and the girl mirrors his regret with a soft apology of her own. The man notices the item in her hand and asks point-blank if she intends to buy it. Taken aback by the direct question, the girl freezes and lets out a confused sound. He admits he was thinking of buying the exact same item, confirming her fears that they are rivals for the purchase. Revealing there is only one left, he states his desire for it, leaving the girl unsure of how to proceed. Sensing her distress, the man leans in and gently asks what is wrong. She starts to voice her concern but quickly retreats, claiming it is nothing to avoid conflict. The man clarifies that he only needs to check the map for his journey to the next town, implying he doesn't need to own it. Hope sparks in the girl's eyes as she asks if his words mean what she thinks they do. With a friendly smile, he proposes a compromise to solve their shared problem. He generously offers to let her keep the map, relinquishing his claim to the physical item entirely. His deal is simple: he will pay 1/3 of the cost if she agrees to let him look at the map in return. The girl considers the offer, realizing that it isn't a bad deal for her at all. Despite the logic, a shadow of hesitation crosses her face as she struggles with trust. Paranoia sets in as she wonders if this friendly stranger is actually a bad guy planning to rob her once she buys the map. The man waits for her answer while she battles her internal suspicion, stammering a nervous reply. He presses gently to ensure she is truly comfortable with the arrangement, and she finally agrees. Double-checking her consent, he asks again if she is sure, receiving a confirmed nod. Flashing a charming smile, he declares that he is perfectly fine with the agreement. Eager to conclude the business, he suggests they get right to it, beaming with a dazzling expression. He reaches into his pocket and hands over the agreed-upon payment. The coins meant for seeing the map rest in his open palm. She accepts the coins into her hand, sealing the deal with a quiet confirmation. He steps back, telling her he will wait outside the store and asks her to call him when she is done. Stepping up to the counter, the girl asks the shopkeeper if she can purchase the item. The bespectacled shopkeeper looks down and states the price is 860 gold. She nervously pulls out her money bag, the coins clinking as she prepares to pay. Panic rises as she realizes she doesn't know how to count the money to match the 860 gold price. Recalling that slaves are forbidden from having money, she decides to just get the gold out and hope for the best. With a trembling hand, she slides a coin across the counter toward the merchant. The shopkeeper stares silently as she stands there, her heart pounding in her chest. The merchant hands over the change from Sora's purchase, marking the successful end of her first transaction. She carefully counts the coins in her hand, feeling a sudden surge of accomplishment. Sora gazes at the money with wide, sparkling eyes, mesmerized by her own success. She clutches her bag tightly, overwhelmed with relief and thanking God that she managed to navigate the purchase without error. Leaning against a wall to catch her breath, Sora admits to herself that she only pretended to know what she was doing to avoid being cheated. She celebrates the fact that she has officially finished her shopping and successfully received the correct change. The mental strain of the task takes its toll, and she collapses into a crouch on the cobblestones. Sora reflects on how exhausted she is just from buying a map, worrying that she cannot even imagine what her future holds. Her moment of rest is interrupted when she notices the man from earlier standing nearby. The man acknowledges her, thanking her for waiting as he approaches. He holds out his hand and asks Sora if she can show him the map she just purchased. Sora reaches into her cloak and hands the map over to him without hesitation. The man looks down at the map, though he seems slightly hesitant or uncertain about what he sees. He looks back at Sora and asks her exactly where she is trying to go. Sora takes a moment to think, her expression serious as she prepares to answer. The man points to a specific spot on the map, identifying it as a town called Grosso. Sora is intrigued by the name and asks him what kind of city Grosso actually is. He explains that Grosso is a bustling merchant town known for its large guild, great logistics, and abundance of goods. Sora realizes she likes the sound of the town and asks how far it is from their current location, thinking she might go there too. The man informs her that Grosso is a long way off, taking about 5 days to reach if she travels along the main road. Sora falls silent, processing the reality of such a long and difficult journey. She stares off into the distance, perhaps questioning her ability to handle a 5-day trek alone. The man notices her hesitation and watches her closely, wondering what is on her mind. Sora turns her focus back to him, sizing him up as a potential resource. She asks him if he is a traveler, and he seems surprised by the direct question. He clarifies that he is an adventurer who just finished a solo job and is heading to Grosso to meet his friends. Sora hesitates before admitting that she has a sudden and unexpected request for him. Boldly, Sora asks the adventurer if she can hire him to accompany her. The adventurer is taken aback, questioning if she really intends to hire him directly without going through the guild. Sora wonders aloud if the guild handles these types of transactions, and the stranger confirms her suspicion. Curious about her sudden inquiry, the man asks why she brought up the guild. Sora reveals she plans to go to Grosso and tentatively asks if he would be willing to protect her during the journey. Taken aback by the sudden job offer, the man asks what business she has in a city like Grosso. She admits she hasn't decided yet but wants to seek opportunities in a larger city to work or travel. A moment of silence stretches between them as the man evaluates the hooded girl's request. Breaking the silence, he quotes a professional rate of 8,000 gold per day with meals included. With a charming wink, he accepts the job and agrees to become her escort. He advises her to contact the guild once they reach Grosso and asks one last time if she is sure. Sora confirms her decision and they shake hands to seal the agreement. He introduces himself as Jake, insisting she drop the formalities and just use his name. Following his lead, the girl introduces herself simply as Sora. They exchange polite thanks and pleasantries as their partnership begins. 5 days pass on the road before the duo finally arrives at their destination. The architecture of the city looms ahead as they announce their arrival in Grosso. Standing at the entrance, Jake and Sora look out over the bustling city streets. Overwhelmed by the noise of the crowd, Sora agrees when Jake suggests finding a quieter spot. Jake reflects that despite her appearance, the girl is proving to be different than the quiet figure he imagined. A guard stops them at the gate to check for identification cards. Jake presents his guild card, securing the discounted entry fee of 500 gold. When Jake asks about the regular price, Sora recalls it being a hefty 3,000 gold. Sora is shocked to learn the non-member price is 5 times higher, realizing how lucky she is. She silently expresses her gratitude that she hired Jake and avoided the exorbitant fee. Jake interrupts her thoughts to ask if she has already arranged a place to stay. Sora gets defensive about his question until she remembers she has a specific errand to run first. She reminds herself that his escort contract officially ends today. With a determined expression, she resolves to ask for what she needs immediately. Jake recommends a cozy inn he knows, and Sora decides to accompany him there. They arrive at a large building identified as the Dancing Eagle Pavilion. Sora looks up at the sign, noting the imagery that marks it as an inn and tavern. Inside, Jake approaches the counter and is warmly welcomed back by the landlady. He introduces Sora as a new guest, prompting the landlady to ask if they need a room for two. Sora answers the landlady, initially confirming that they will need rooms separately. Changing her mind in an instant, Sora interrupts Jake to request a twin room instead of 2 singles. Jake looks at her in total confusion, asking why she would suddenly want to share a room. He lets out a loud, incredulous scream as she whispers her true intention to him. His voice echoes over the rooftops as he yells in shock that she plans to buy a slave. Sora calmly explains that the double room is necessary to accommodate the slave she intends to buy. She argues that she is not a fighter and cannot afford to hire a new bodyguard every time she travels. Her solution is to purchase a fighting slave as a one-time initial investment for her long-term safety. Jake shrugs, deciding not to argue further and telling her, why not, if that is what she wants. However, he offers a word of caution, stating that he personally wouldn't recommend it. Sora reveals she was once a slave herself as she asks for the location of the trade houses. Jake warns her that the area isn't safe but agrees to show her around anyway. He leads the way, emphasizing that the slave district is not a place for sightseeing. Guiding her through the streets, he directs her toward the seedier part of town. They enter a quiet, desolate alleyway that stands in stark contrast to the bustling city. Sora stops, noticing a figure collapsed on the ground in the shadows. Jake suddenly grabs her wrist, calling her name to snap her attention back to him. He instructs her firmly not to let go of his hand as they move through the dangerous area. They walk past rows of large tents and wooden cages in the open slave market. Stopping at an entrance, Jake asks her one last time if she is sure she wants to go inside. Sora looks at the display of slaves, feeling that none of them are quite what she is looking for. A sudden feeling stops her in her tracks as she senses something different nearby. She approaches a dark cell, peering through the heavy iron bars into the gloom. A single, wide eye stares back at her from the darkness, filled with intensity. The prisoner is revealed to be a man with long, messy hair and a beard, looking weary yet fierce. His sharp eyes lock onto hers, piercing through the shadows with a powerful gaze. A voice calls out, "Customer," breaking the silence as Sora stands captivated by the prisoner. The merchant appears, asking if she is looking to purchase a slave. Sora stands before the merchant with Jake, hesitating as she tries to find the words to explain her request. She admits she hasn't fully decided to buy yet but wants to see his stock, laughing nervously to break the tension. The merchant stares intently at her for a moment, his expression unreadable and calculating. Suddenly, his face splits into a wide, professional smile as he enthusiastically agrees to her request. He introduces himself as Rodriguez, the owner of the shop, and invites them to the back. Ushering them inside, Rodriguez beckons them to follow him deeper into the establishment. Sora glances around with a darkened expression, taking in the grim atmosphere of the place. Rodriguez leads the way, while Sora follows with a look of growing unease on her face. Entering the main holding area, Rodriguez proudly presents his stock and asks what she is looking for. Sora pauses, contemplating exactly what kind of slave she needs for her journey. The reality of the place sets in as she sees the prisoners confined behind bars. A disheveled figure stares out from a cage, letting out a hollow, pained sound. The conditions are filthy, with bare feet resting on cold, dirty stone floors. Sora freezes, a look of pure shock washing over her face at the sight. Jake checks on her, while Sora internally compares this horror to her own relatively mild experience as a slave. Rodriguez notices her hesitation and prompts her, asking if there is something she needs. Sora stammers, trying to ask about the harsh environment and the condition of the people kept there. Rodriguez realizes her ignorance and chuckles, noting that she has clearly never seen a criminal slave before. He clarifies that his establishment specializes exclusively in criminal slavery. Explaining the difference, he states that unlike labor or pet slaves, these criminals have no freedom and must be caged. He reassures her that while they are dangerous, they will obey, pressing her again on what she wants. Sora realizes with a heavy heart that these people are treated far worse than she ever was. Gathering her resolve, she requests a sturdy one, delighting Rodriguez with her answer. He touts their resilience, explaining that since they are criminals, they are used to rough treatment. Sora nervously agrees and then asks to see the cheapest options available. Rodriguez points her toward a specific section where the best value can be found. Inside the cages, bodies are piled together in cramped, miserable conditions. One prisoner sits wrapped in bandages, their face obscured and mysterious. Another stares out with a scarred, weary face, bearing the marks of a hard life. Rodriguez lists the exorbitant prices, ranging from 500,000 to 600,000 gold, leaving Sora stunned. Leading them to another cage, he presents the absolute cheapest price he has to offer. A desperate prisoner clings to the iron bars, his eyes wide with fear as he begs the visitors to buy him. Sora stares back in stunned silence, her expression a mix of shock and hesitation at the man's plea. She internally debates her finances, wondering if she should make such a momentous decision right then and there. Her companion interrupts her thoughts, questioning if she is certain about this choice since she needs a slave capable of fighting. Reminded of her original goal, Sora reaffirms that she indeed came to purchase a combat-ready slave. The intricate patterns of the hallway blur past as they move deeper into the slave quarters. Sora notices something odd, her attention snapping to a specific area where the atmosphere feels heavier. She points out that the cage size in that particular spot is distinctly different from the others. Recognition flashes in her eyes as she realizes she has seen the prisoner inside that cage before. The merchant looks unsettled by her observation, sweat forming on his brow as he stammers in surprise. Peering into the darkness, Sora identifies the prisoner not as a human, but as a demon. Her companion reacts with surprise, noting how unusual it is to find a demon in such a place. He clarifies for her that the creature is technically classified as an ogre species. Undeterred, Sora insists on verifying her suspicion and asks the merchant if it is possible to see the creature clearly. The merchant hesitates, asking if there is a problem and if she is truly serious about this request. Recovering his composure, he denies any issue and agrees to show his curious customer the merchandise. He approaches the reinforced cage where the large figure lies crumpled on the floor behind a heavy lock. Grabbing the prisoner's hair, he roughly lifts the head to check if the creature has passed out. He displays the prisoner's head to them, declaring this feature as definitive proof of the ogre species. The prisoner lets out a low, pained groan as he is manhandled for the display. Sora's eyes widen as the hood is pulled back to reveal the creature's distinct horns. She is captivated by them, thinking they look surprisingly shiny and beautiful. The merchant announces the price is 250,000 G, causing Sora to pause and calculate the cost. A look of realization crosses her face as she understands that the price is shockingly cheap. Suspicious of the low cost, which is half that of the cheapest human, she asks if the demon is weak. The merchant bursts into laughter at the absurdity of the question. He assures her that the demon is far from weak, as his race is naturally very sturdy and resilient. The merchant praises the unconscious captive, highlighting his immense magic reserves and formidable fighting skills. He insists the man is perfectly suited for combat while Sora stares intently at the hooded figure. A sly grin creeps across the merchant's face as he considers the potential sale. Leaning in, he suggests the slave would also make an excellent escort for a customer like her. Sora gazes into the cell, wondering aloud how such a seemingly capable man fell to the status of a criminal slave. The merchant pauses, asking for a moment to check his records for the specific details of the crime. Silence fills the damp corridor as they wait for the files to be retrieved. Returning with a document, the merchant reveals that this slave appears to be a former adventurer. He adds that the man was actually an A-rank adventurer before his tragic fall from grace. A botched mission led to massive reparations, forcing him to steal money and goods from a nobleman to pay the debt. Sora quietly absorbs this information, her eyes fixed on the prisoner through the bars. Through the gaps, the slave's scarred body hints at a history of violence and hardship. Sora asks if this criminal slave is bound with stronger magic than the standard variety. The merchant explains that while labor slaves usually just have a vow spell cast on a collar, criminal slaves have the spell carved directly into their bodies, whereas collars are merely used to transmit punishing electricity. To violate that covenant is to die, for the spell on his body effectively binds his very soul. Sora listens intently, her expression serious as she grasps the gravity of the binding. Realizing the collar is solely for punishment, she asks if there is an option to purchase him without it. Shocked by the request, the merchant stammers that it is possible, and Sora immediately declares she will buy him. Her companion looks at her in disbelief, asking if she is absolutely sure about this risky decision. The merchant admits he has never heard of a criminal slave without a collar but agrees to fulfill her wish. He asks them to wait a moment while they prepare the slave for transfer. A lantern flickers in the gloom as the group stands in tense silence. Her companion leans in again, anxiously double-checking if Sora is truly certain about this purchase. He argues that while he isn't against buying slaves, she doesn't have to choose this specific, dangerous one. Sora casually remarks that the price was the main factor before admiringly pointing out the beauty of his horns. Her companion stares at her in frustration, prompting Sora to ask if he is sexually harassing her. He snaps back that he doesn't know what that means, but warns her about the dangers of buying a demon. A bucket of water splashes over the fallen slave, forcing him to wake from his stupor. The man gasps for air as he wakes, water dripping from his face as he is told he has a new master. Sora stands before the open cell as the merchant gestures for the customer to step forward. Boots splash against the wet floor as she approaches her new acquisition. Sora stands before Liam, who is crouched on the ground, as they prepare for the ritual to begin. Liam remains silent, his expression hidden behind his long hair as he waits for the next step. Sora watches with wide eyes, anticipating the start of the binding process. The trader presents a cup, demanding that blood be dripped into it to facilitate the covenant. Sora recoils in fear, stuttering at the mention of needles and the requirement of her own blood. Jake watches in confusion, questioning if Sora actually wants to be stabbed for the ritual. Sora begins to tremble uncontrollably as the reality of the needles sink in. Paralyzed by her phobia, Sora admits she is too scared of needles to move. A sharp prick follows, eliciting a small cry of pain from Sora. Sora shouts in pain as her finger is pricked for the blood offering. A single drop of blood falls into the cup, rippling across the surface of the liquid inside. The trader holds the glass steady as the blood mixes with the ritual fluid. Liam drinks the mixture, officially accepting the terms of the binding blood covenant. He finishes the draft in one gulp, completing his part of the physical requirement. The trader asks Sora for her full name to finalize the verbal portion of the contract. The identities are established, Sora Ono as the master and Liam Gre as the subordinate. The trader recites the incantation, commanding that the will of obedience be engraved on Liam's body under the covenant. As the voice establishes the bond, Sora realizes for the first time that the man's name is Liam. The trader raises his hand, channeling the magic as Liam bows his head in submission. Sora watches closely, wondering if the intense ritual has finally come to an end. Suddenly, Liam cries out in agony as the magic takes hold of his body. Liam's screams intensify as the will of obedience begins to physically manifest. The force of the magic surges through Liam, causing a violent reaction across his skin. Liam continues to wail as the engraving process reaches its peak. Sora watches in absolute shock and horror at the violence of the binding process. Liam is thrown backward by the sheer force of the magic, collapsing violently onto the ground. Distraught, Sora rushes forward to check if Liam is still okay after such a brutal ritual. Sora stands over her new companion, wondering if he will truly become a reliable ally. Sora looks down at the unconscious man lying on the floor in the slave house. Worried by his lack of movement, Sora asks the trader if the man has died. The trader dismisses her concern, explaining that the reaction is simply due to the pledge stamp being placed on the body. The transaction concludes with the trader thanking Sora for her purchase. Jake stands nearby, observing the man's legs as he remains motionless on the ground. Jake kneels down to inspect the man's condition more closely. Examining a glowing mark on the man's skin, Jake acknowledges the completion of the ritual. Jake identifies the mark as the contractual stamp belonging to a criminal slave. Jake turns to Sora and asks if she wants the man to walk back to the inn on his own. Sora hesitates, unsure of how to handle her new subordinate in his current state. As the city bells toll in the background, Sora asks Jake if he is alright. Jake claims he is fine, though his posture suggests otherwise. Struggling with the physical burden of the man, Jake admits he isn't sure he can actually say he's fine. Sora repeatedly apologizes to Jake for making him carry the unconscious man. Jake carries the man on his back toward the inn, grumbling that this job has turned out to be more work than it's worth. They arrive back at the Dancing Eagle Pavilion, announcing their return to the landlady. The landlady greets them at the counter, noting their return with a weary guest. Jake asks Sora if she wants him to carry the man directly to her room. The landlady looks on with a stern, suspicious expression, muttering the word, ogre. Sora stands by the door, noticing the heavy atmosphere in the room. Sora reflects on the fact that both Jake and the landlady reacted very subtly and strangely to the new slave. Entering the room, Jake asks where he should place the man and suggests putting him on the bed. Jake finally drops the man onto one of the twin beds, letting out a sigh of relief. Sora happily falls onto the other bed, delighted by how soft it feels. Jake prepares to leave, mentioning he hasn't done manual labor like that in a long time. Jake reminds Sora that he is staying in the same inn and to call him if she needs anything. Sora thanks Jake profusely for his help throughout the day. Sora notices a lingering question or concern in the air as Jake pauses. Jake gives her a final warning, telling her to be careful because the man she bought is not a normal person. Sora tries to reassure him, stating that because he is under contract, the slave cannot raise a hand against her. Jake accepts her answer with a smile and bids her good night, promising to see her tomorrow. Sora steps into the room and closes the door, letting out a breath as the exhaustion of the day finally catches up to her. She collapses forward with a heavy thud, groaning that she is absolutely exhausted from the day's events. Her mind drifts to tomorrow's tasks, prioritizing a visit to the guild to postpone Jake's request and some grocery shopping. Gazing at the sleeping demon, she notes that he desperately needs a shave and a haircut to look presentable. She sits beside his bed, regretting that she couldn't give him a bath because she felt too guilty to wake him from his rest. Sora leans in to inspect his wounds, grimacing as she acknowledges that his injuries are far worse than she initially thought. She gently pulls the covers up to his shoulders, ensuring he stays warm and comfortable while he heals. Sitting back on her own mattress, she stares blankly into space as the weight of fatigue pulls at her eyelids. Deciding to delay her work, she dives face-first into the pillows and declares she is taking a nap immediately. She reflects on the luxury of the mattress, noting that she barely ever slept in a real bed even at her former master's house. Thrusting her fists into the air, she happily proclaims this to be the best bed she has ever slept in. Silence fills the room as the light shifts outside the window, marking the quiet passage of time. Sora begins to stir, her eyes fluttering open as she slowly wakes from her deep slumber. She sits up with a start, realizing with shock that she has slept far longer than she intended. Panic sets in as she calculates the time, realizing she slept through both the evening and the entire morning. Her stomach lets out a loud growl, and she clutches her midsection while announcing she is starving. She turns her gaze toward the other side of the room, looking for her companion. The demon is awake, his eyes open and alert as he watches her from the shadows. He offers a quiet good morning, crouching respectfully on the floor rather than sitting on the furniture. Sora stares back in surprise before awkwardly returning the greeting. She looks down at him in exasperation, asking why on earth he is sitting on the floor again instead of the bed. Liam bows his head low, thanking her earnestly for the purchase that saved him. He pledges to serve her with all his heart and soul, his voice thick with gratitude and determination. Sora stares down at him in silence, her expression softening as she processes his intense loyalty. She steps forward, her bare feet pressing softly against the wooden floorboards. Gently patting his head, she breaks the tension and watches him flinch in surprise. She suggests they get breakfast, promising to bring something back for him to eat. Liam remains silent, his eyes widening slightly as he processes her casual kindness. When he asks for orders, she simply tells him to relax and indulge himself for the day. Her gaze lands on the neatly folded bedding, a small but significant act of service she hadn't requested. She turns back to thank him specifically for folding the dressing gown. Saluting playfully, she announces she is off to get rice while he bids her farewell as master. Pausing at the door, she corrects him with a smile, telling him to call her Sora instead. Liam adjusts immediately, bowing his head again to address her as Miss Sora. She accepts the new title with a sigh, deciding she doesn't mind if he calls her that. With a final farewell, she steps out of the room and closes the door behind her. The key turns in the lock with a sharp click, securing the room before she departs. Walking down the hall, she dislikes his shyness and resolves not to force his obedience through fear. She admits to herself that regaining her old self will take time and a lot of patience. Jake greets her brightly on the stairs, asking if she managed to sleep well. Clenching her fists, she enthusiastically declares that beds are the absolute best. Jake laughs, sharing her sentiment about the luxury of beds after long expeditions. He invites her to join him for breakfast, and she hesitates before answering. A delicious aroma wafts through the air, instantly capturing her attention and making her nose twitch. Amused by her reaction, Jake chuckles and offers to buy her a dish. The waitress arrives, confirming the order of a moorhawk beef-wrapped pie. Jake notices her hesitation and asks if she is sure she doesn't want to eat. Thinking of the man back in the room, she resolves to buy Liam a nutritious meal to aid his recovery. Jake watches her intently, puzzled by the conflicted expression on her face. The waitress returns with a steaming plate, apologizing for keeping them waiting. Sora's eyes sparkle as the massive pie is placed on the table, the heat radiating from it. She marvels at the golden crust, identifying it as the famous moorhawk beef pie. Identifying the scent that lured her, she listens as Jake praises it as a specialty of the Dancing Eagle Pavilion. Jake smiles warmly, holding up a forkful of the steaming pie and urging her to try it. Sora takes a bite and her eyes immediately widen, her pupils dilating in sheer culinary shock. A groan of pure ecstasy escapes her lips as the flavor overwhelms her senses. As Jake asks if she wants more, she freezes, realizing it has been an eternity since she last tasted such good food. Guilt instantly strikes her as she remembers Liam is waiting, forcing her to put the fork down. Scrambling up, she frantically asks Jake for the location of the nearest food shop and dashes off. She returns home laden with heavy bags, sheepishly admitting to Liam that she bought way too much. Unpacking the haul, she suggests they have breakfast, mentioning the great soup place Jake recommended. Liam dutifully steps forward and asks if he should carry the food to the table for her. As he stands to his full height, Sora is struck by the sudden realization of his massive stature. She stares up at him in awe, noting that he is significantly taller than she had originally estimated. Her gaze shifts to the visible grime covering him, a stark reminder of the rough state he has been living in. Apologizing for the terrible environment and smell, she gently asks him to go take a bath first. She brightens up, suggesting that once he is cleaned up, he can finally shave off the beard. Liam accepts the instruction with a quiet dignity, thanking her before heading to the bath. The bathroom door clicks open, and Liam announces that he has finished washing up. Sora turns with a bright smile, eager to finally sit down and share the breakfast she bought. Her smile vanishes into utter confusion as she stares at the stranger before her, asking who he is. She gasps in disbelief, completely blindsided by the revelation that Liam is actually incredibly handsome. The story asks what happens when a bath reveals a handsome man, showcasing Liam's striking new look. Liam stands shirtless and dripping wet, looking at Sora with a confused expression and asking what he is supposed to do next. Sora realizes it isn't good for him to remain undressed, prompting her to take action. She decides she doesn't want him wearing his old, tattered clothes ever again and resolves to get rid of them. Liam stands silently, his scarred back turned as Sora continues to process the situation. Sora admits to herself that she never considered his facial features before, shocked to find he was once such a handsome man. Feeling the tension, Sora nervously compliments his nice face, admitting that his appearance is making her a bit flustered. She quickly tries to laugh it off as a joke, apologizing for the awkward moment. Turning the focus back to practical matters, Sora suggests they eat the rice she bought for him. Sora beams with a smile, asking if he's hungry while preparing to unpack the food. The table is laid out with appetizing bread and jars of hot soup that look delicious. Sora invites Liam to sit down so they can begin their breakfast together. Sitting at the table with her hands clasped in prayer, Sora offers a sincere thanks for the meal. Liam looks on with confusion at her prayer, leading Sora to tell him not to worry about her customs. She encourages him to eat up, reassuring him that there is plenty of food to go around. Liam opens one of the jars, reacting with surprise at what he finds inside. Sora is baffled by the bottle, noting that the soup is still steaming hot even though she hasn't heated it up. Liam gazes at the warm meal in silence, seemingly moved by the gesture. He takes a spoonful of the hot soup, prepared to taste it for the first time. The man slowly eats the food, savoring the warmth and flavor of the provided meal. Sora watches him closely, wondering if the taste is to his liking. Liam begins to eat with more intensity, consuming the soup with great enthusiasm. He continues to gulp down the meal, clearly finding comfort in the hot food. Sora stares in wide-eyed amazement, shocked by how fast Liam is eating. She offers him some bread as well, telling him he should eat until he is completely full. As he eats, tears begin to well up in Liam's eyes, a silent reaction to the kindness he's receiving. Sora notices him crying and softly acknowledges his emotional response to the warm meal. She comforts him, understanding that a simple hot meal can hold immense meaning for someone in his position. Liam reveals that he hasn't had food like this since coming to this world, explaining that slaves never receive hot meals. He recalls that he has only ever eaten a proper meal once before during his long ordeal. A flashback to 7 years ago shows a young, lost Sora wondering where she is. She remembers being swallowed by a strange blur while skipping school in a park and being transported to this world. Though she initially wanted to believe it was a dream, the physical reality of her hunger and exhaustion proved otherwise. The young Sora cried out in despair, stating she was hungry and just wanted to go home. Collapsing on the ground, she felt hopeless after being unable to find anything to help her. In her moment of deepest need, she desperately begged for someone to help her. A man approached the young girl, asking her what was wrong. Sora explained her situation, telling him she was lost and having trouble getting back home. The man acknowledged her plight as a tough one, and kindly invited her to get something to eat at his place. Overjoyed by the offer of food, Sora immediately and enthusiastically accepted. The kind stranger encouraged her to come with him, telling her that people in trouble should help each other. He provided her with a warm and delicious feast featuring various pies, meats, and fruits. Sora reflects on that moment, remembering how she realized for the first time that some people in this world were truly kind. Liam reflects on his naivety, realizing too late that it was stupid to trust the man who turned out to be a trafficker. The memory shifts to the grim reality where the next thing he knew, he had become a slave. Sora stands in profile, her expression gentle as she observes the man she has taken in. Liam savors the food, noting that because he is free now, it has been a long time since he had a hot meal. Sora interrupts his meal, calling out his name to get his attention. She clarifies that although she bought him as a slave, the situation is not what he thinks. She explains that she does not intend to keep him by her side forever. Her goal is to let him go once she has learned how to live independently in this world. Liam continues to eat voraciously, stuffing his mouth with the food she provided. Sora stares in shock at the empty jars, realizing she has accidentally served him her entire stock. Unaware of her internal panic, Liam bows his head and thanks Miss Sora for the food. He smiles genuinely, declaring that he is more than happy to have such a delicious meal. Sora is struck by his sudden transformation, internally screaming that he is incredibly handsome. She laments that her gluttonous nature has cost her the soup she planned to ration for days. Despite the loss of resources, she finds herself overwhelmed by the sheer power of his attractive face. She tells him she will treat his injuries once he rests, while internally worrying about losing all her money to food costs. She observes that he is hurt pretty bad all over, causing Liam to look at her in confusion. Walking to the shelf, she mentions that her master gave her a bottle of potions for healing. She gathers the collection of glass bottles, preparing to treat his extensive wounds. Deciding on the best course of action, she announces she will use the advanced potions. She asks Liam to turn around so she can examine his upper body. Liam agrees immediately, preparing to follow her instructions. She pours the healing liquid into her hand, ready to apply it to his skin. As she applies the potion, the magic takes effect instantly upon contact with his chest. Liam looks down in amazement, noting that the scar has completely disappeared. Sora moves to his arm, apologizing in advance if the application hurts. She asks if he had a fracture before, explaining that healed wounds can still retain pain. Comforting him, she assures him the pain will go away if he stays patient for a little while. She continues to rub the medicine into his skin, the sound of application filling the silence. Liam winces, a flush rising to his face as the sensation becomes intense. He squeezes his eyes shut and lets out a low groan of discomfort. Sora apologizes again, distracting herself by commenting that he looks amazing. She discovers his ankle is stuck and cannot bend properly, identifying it as another injury. Her expression softens with pity as she realizes he has been through so much. Liam remains silent, his face betraying a hint of the exhaustion he carries. When asked about his time as a slave, he reveals it has been about 5 years. Sora probes further, asking how many masters he has served during that time. Liam answers that he has had 2, noting that Miss Sora is the 3rd. She pauses before asking the difficult question of how they treated him. Liam flinches visibly, his eyes widening as a traumatic memory flashes through his mind. He freezes in fear, sweat beading on his face as the past threatens to overwhelm him. Sora immediately comforts him. Apologizing for asking and acknowledging the severity of his injuries speaks for itself. Liam composes himself and begins to speak about the first person who owned him. He reveals that his first master was a merchant. Liam recounts the brutal punishment he received from his second master whenever he misbehaved. He explains that his master despised touching him and would use his feet to enforce discipline instead. With a heavy heart, Liam confirms that he was frequently kicked as part of this abuse. Sora is horrified to learn that Liam was only fed roughly once every 2 days. The weight of his suffering leaves Sora stunned and struggling to process the extent of his trauma. Sora realizes the kicks were violent enough to break Liam's bones, given his matter-of-fact delivery. Examining Liam, Sora notices his leg was once broken and has healed in a distorted, painful-looking way. She asks Liam with concern if he is in pain, but he stoically insists that he is fine. Sora gently pushes Liam to continue his story, asking about the master who followed the second one. Liam reveals that his next owner was a woman with a specific preference for pet slaves. The term, pet slave, clearly unsettles Sora, leaving her visibly distressed. Liam notes that while he was purchased for his rare species, his mistress grew furious when he couldn't serve her needs. He describes how she preferred to use instruments of torture to flog and abuse him. Sora's eyes fall upon Liam's back, recognizing the horrific scars left behind by his mistreatment. She continues her grim inspection, noticing deep, jagged scarring on his thigh as well. Liam confirms the thigh wound was caused by a device specifically designed to gouge out flesh. Sora warns Liam that what she's about to do will hurt, urging him to be patient as she begins treatment. Liam lets out a pained sound but confirms he is okay as Sora works to help him. Sora instructs Liam to turn his back to her so she can address his wounds more effectively. While she works, Sora asks if the rumors are true that Liam was an adventurer before his enslavement. She inquires if he is familiar with guilds and the logistics of buying and selling materials. Liam admits that he possesses that knowledge to a certain extent. Sora is overjoyed, exclaiming that his experience will be incredibly helpful to her. She admits her ignorance of this world and expresses her deep hope that Liam can guide her. Sora asks if it's okay for them to work together, looking for his consent. She declares that there will be no more big scratches, as she places a healing hand on his scarred back. Sora carefully checks the mobility of his joints to ensure the healing is taking effect. Liam looks down at his hands, watching as Sora's efforts begin to mend his broken body. He sits quietly, allowing Sora to continue the thorough examination and healing process. Liam's face remains solemn, though he appears deeply affected by Sora's genuine kindness. Sora beams with a bright smile, satisfied with the progress they've made. She hands Liam a vessel and encourages him to drink the rest of the contents. Sora expresses her optimistic belief that this final step will fix everything that was broken. A mystical glow surrounds Liam as the healing magic fully integrates into his system. Sora leans in close, eagerly asking Liam if he is starting to feel better. Liam holds the empty bottle, seemingly stunned by the physical transformation he has undergone. He lets out a small sound of confusion as he begins to process his new reality. Drops of liquid fall as the room remains quiet during this emotional realization. Sora looks at him with intense concern, softly calling out his name to check on him. Overwhelmed by her compassion, Liam breaks down in tears and offers his sincere thanks. Sora insists she is just doing what comes naturally, but Liam remains deeply moved. Liam repeats his gratitude, unable to believe the kindness he has been shown. He tells Sora that he truly cannot thank her enough for what she has done. Sora smiles awkwardly, wondering what she should do in the face of such raw emotion. In a bizarre fourth wall break, Liam weeps over having just finished the tragic game near Replicant. He continues his comedic lament, crying that he still hasn't pulled ball in Genshin Impact. Sora steps into the bathroom and notes it has been a long time since her last bath. Humming a soft tune, she steps into the shower stall to prepare. She pauses, realizing she has never actually used a shower in this world before. She grips the handle but finds it completely stuck, unable to turn it. Confused, she stares at the crystal faucet and wonders if this is the right mechanism. She calls out to Liam, asking him how to get hot water out of the device. Liam bursts into the room in a panic, asking if she summoned him. He freezes in the doorway, staring at her in stunned silence. Flustered, he covers his eyes and stammers a frantic apology. Sora shrieks in realization that she is standing there completely naked. She cowers in embarrassment and apologizes for the mishap. Liam turns his back to give her privacy while she reassures him it is okay. He stares up at the shower head and asks if she wanted hot water. He explains that she needs to let magic flow into the device to make it work. He emphasizes that magic is the key to operating the stone. Sora looks confused, asking what he means and if she even possesses magic. Liam demonstrates by touching the stone, explaining that pouring magic in releases the water. Water instantly rains down from the shower head as the magic activates. Liam steps back and encourages Sora to try activating it herself. Sora hesitates, wondering internally if she truly has magical powers. She reaches out and presses her hand firmly against the magic stone. A weak, pathetic trickle of water drips out from the shower head. The water is scalding hot, causing steam to rise immediately. Sora complains that the flow is small and the heat is far too intense. Liam deduces that the low water volume is likely due to low magic power. He reveals that the high temperature indicates high-quality magic. Sora repeats his words, surprised by the assessment of her magic quality. Liam assures her the temperature will stabilize as she gets used to the flow. Sora thanks him for the guidance and agrees to keep practicing. Later, she reflects on how she managed to get a decent amount of hot water thanks to him. She smiles to herself, content with the useful information she learned. Outside, Liam covers his blushing face with his hand in embarrassment. He admits to himself that the accidental sight of her felt good. Sora comes out drying her hair and apologizes for keeping him waiting. She stops when she finds Liam fast asleep on the bed. She wishes him a good night, realizing the restorative hasn't fully cured his exhaustion. Panic strikes as she remembers she has to get ready. A large, timber-framed house stands quietly in the daylight, marking a moment of calm before the scene shifts. Jake waits with growing impatience, sweat forming on his brow as he mutters that she is not coming. Just as he fears she forgot their meeting, a voice calls out his name and cuts through his worry. Sora approaches with a cheerful greeting, appearing completely oblivious to his anxiety. Jake immediately starts to lecture her, pointing out that she is running late. He demands to know why she doesn't look the least bit apologetic for keeping him waiting. Realizing her mistake, she quickly bows and apologizes for taking so long to arrive. Jake sighs, resignedly noting that she really is a free-spirited person. She laughs bashfully as if receiving a compliment, but he sharply clarifies that he is not praising her. Signaling the end of the conversation, he tells her to get moving so they can proceed. She notices his attire and comments that he is dressed very lightly today. He explains that since his friends won't arrive until tomorrow, he decided to take it easy today. He asks if she has any plans after visiting the guild, and she hums in thought. She beams and happily announces that she is going shopping. Jake looks exasperated, muttering about her going shopping yet again. She quickly clarifies that she is not buying another slave, asking if he really thinks that is her intention. Sora wonders what kind of person he thinks she is, while he breathes a sigh of relief. He shifts the topic, asking how the man, Liam, is doing. She cheerfully reports that he has been treated and is currently sleeping naked. Jake stammers in shock, repeating the part about him sleeping naked with a flushed face. He awkwardly comments that it must be hard keeping up with demons, confusing her with his assumption. He questions her strength, leaving her confused as she denies going out anywhere special. The conversation lapses into an awkward, confused silence between the two. She feels a nagging suspicion that she is being misunderstood, though she can't pinpoint why. She changes the subject, asking if the guild is far from their current location. Suddenly, she stumbles with a sharp cry of pain as she loses her footing. Jake immediately checks if she is all right, and she apologizes for the mishap. She apologizes for walking slowly, but he dismisses it, noting that she can't help being small. A sudden idea strikes him as he exclaims that he knows what to do. He exclaims that the situation is bad and suddenly grabs her hood to adjust it. He guides her forward, telling her to follow the road since the guild is just around the corner. Liam breaks the silence as they walk through the city, asking Sora about her plans now that she is free. He recalls her saying nothing was set in stone, prompting her to consider her next move. Sora admits she is undecided but is actively thinking about selling potions to make a living. Curious about her skills, Liam asks if she can create anything beyond simple low-grade mixtures. She confirms she has recipes like an apprentice, leading Liam to question the extent of her training. He informs her that selling products requires signing up with the guild, complicating her plan for intermediate potions. Sora groans in annoyance upon realizing she must endure yet another registration process. Resigned to the bureaucracy, she decides to ask Liam exactly how to register. Liam announces their arrival while Sora worries about running out of food money if she doesn't work. He points out a large building ahead, indicating that the guild is located inside. A banner bearing a distinct two-headed dragon crest hangs prominently from the structure. Nervousness creeps in as Sora acknowledges this is the guild and suggests heading to reception. Background chatter fills the air as a man named Jake is scolded for being too rough. The interior reveals a high-ceilinged hall bustling with activity and a long reception counter. Sora observes the crowd, noting that the place is filled with intimidating and tough-looking people. She speculates that the layout resembles a business meeting space rather than a simple office. A receptionist greets them with a professional smile, asking how she can assist them today. A wooden barrier separates the staff from the visitors, maintaining order in the busy hall. Liam explains he has received a request for a retrofit registration, prompting a polite acknowledgement. The receptionist hands over a form, instructing them to fill it out and wait for processing. They stand together at the counter as the administrative work begins in earnest. A hand swiftly fills out the necessary paperwork with practiced speed. Sora watches intently from under her hood, observing the procedures of this new world. Liam remarks that processing these requests is quite a hassle as he manages the details. He adds that the process is something of a well-kept secret among those in the know. Directing her attention, Liam instructs Sora to touch a specific spot on the counter. She asks if using her fingers is acceptable before reaching out to the designated area. Magic flares to life with a cry of amazement as her touch activates a glowing reaction. The device confirms the client is Sora and Liam is the requester as the light pulses. Her finger lingers on the surface, completing the magical verification process. Liam hands the completed documents to the staff, formally submitting the request. The receptionist requests a staggering 40,000 G payment, breaking down the cost as 8,000 G for 5 days. A hand tightens its grip around a bag, signaling the acceptance of a task. The receptionist asks Jake to wait a moment before calling out for him. A large, rugged man approaches, and Jake greets him familiarly as Grandpa Miguel. Sora watches with a confused expression, unfamiliar with the name Miguel. The man turns his gaze toward them, his expression serious and intense. He lunges forward with surprising speed and agility. He closes the distance between them in a flash. Sora recoils in shock as the imposing figure suddenly looms over her. Miguel remarks that it has been a while and asks Jake how he has been. He leans in close, asking Jake who the little girl is. Sora stammers a greeting while Jake explains she was his client until yesterday. Miguel bluntly comments that she is small, while Sora internally thinks he is too big. He stares her down with a scary, intense silence. Overwhelmed, Sora accidentally blurts out that he looks like a bandit. Jake panics, shouting that the voice in her heart is leaking out. Miguel bursts into hearty laughter, seemingly amused by her honesty. Sora apologizes profusely while Miguel admits he knows his face is scary. He adds that he is surprised because people rarely say it directly to him. He introduces himself as Miguel Norman and reassures her that it is okay. Miguel reveals that he is the administrator of this guild. Sora is shocked, realizing that this means he is the guild master. He compliments her name, and Sora bows, saying she looks forward to working with him. Jake confirms to Sora that Grandpa Miguel is indeed the big man here. Miguel laughs that he is tired of paperwork and would rather be in the field. He complains that being a big shot keeps him away from the adventurous front lines. Jake explains to Sora that Grandpa Miguel used to be an amazing A-ranked adventurer. He looks at Miguel with admiration, stating that is who he is trying to be. Miguel appreciates the sentiment but warns Jake to break up with the guys he is working with. Sora notes it is not the same people, while Jake asks if he is working with Miguel now. Jake mentions meeting them tomorrow, and Miguel asks if he is really still hanging out with them. Miguel states firmly that they do not deserve him, urging him not to do it. The conversation hangs in an awkward silence as Jake hesitates. A man apologizes for the interruption, explaining he was in the middle of an exchange as Jake approaches. He hands over the payment, clarifying that it is the remaining amount after the brokerage fee has been deducted. Coins clink together as Jake confirms to Sora that she has officially received her commission. Smiling warmly, he congratulates her on a job well done. Sora beams with gratitude, thanking him sincerely for everything he has done. Jake addresses the older man as Grandpa Miguel, noting it has been a long time as they prepare to leave. Miguel acknowledges them, promising to stop by soon to check for any new requests. He offers a standing invitation, telling them to come to him anytime if they encounter problems. Sora bows in thanks while Jake casually acknowledges the offer as they head out. They wave goodbye to Miguel and exit the guild hall together. Walking under the open sky, Jake shifts the conversation to their next task. He notes that their business at the guild is finally finished. Jake suggests picking up groceries before heading home, though Sora inwardly sighs at his worrying nature. She reflects on her ability to handle breakfast alone but resolves to buy clothes and shoes immediately. A flush of embarrassment hits her as she realizes Liam will remain naked if she fails to act. Guilt weighs on her for leaving the inn without saying a word to him. Back in the room, Liam sits alone on the bed, silently wondering how she is doing. Liam wakes up and calls out for Master Sora. He sits in silence, realizing he is alone in the room. He notes the sun is in the west and evening is approaching. He finds a note she left regarding the soup. He stares at the writing, realizing he cannot read the language. Panic rises as he realizes it is too late for her to be out. The terrifying thought strikes him that he has been abandoned. He stands naked and vulnerable, wondering if she just left him there. Desperation takes over as he decides he must go find her. He looks around for something to cover himself with. He realizes with dismay that the clothes he was wearing are gone. He curls up by the door, trapped and helpless. He sits in the dark, haunted by his past. Memories surface of people calling him an accursed son of a demon. A flashback reveals his emaciated child self standing in a hallway. Voices whisper about the horror of conceiving an ogre's child. They demand that he must be gotten rid of. A woman in a dress commands him to move out of her way. He cries out as he is shoved aside. Packages of food scatter across the floor from the impact. She screams at him, asking if she told him not to come there. She orders him to take the food and get the hell out. He calls her mother, but she snaps at him to stop using that name. She bitterly regrets sleeping with the demon client who fathered him. She composes herself to address a client, telling him to wait. She turns back to Liam with a cold threat to leave him if he returns. She demands he acknowledge her words, and he stares in silence. Liam narrates that his mother was a prostitute who saw him only as a hindrance. He explains that his demon blood allowed him to grow despite irregular feeding. He recalls that his mother died when he was 8 years old. He remembers finding her dead body. She died sickly and alone in the back of the brothel, her beauty faded. Liam reflects on his desolate start, having been left with no money, love, or inheritance from his mother. He admits he didn't want to die miserably, yet felt a strange detachment rather than sadness. His demon blood provided a crucial survival advantage when he was forced to live on his own. Hiding his true nature, he became an adventurer, using his abnormal strength and magic to excel despite being only 10. The initial years of his solitary life were a constant and brutal struggle. As he gained experience and completed daily requests, his rank began to climb steadily. Before he even realized it, he had ascended to the respectable rank of B class. A new challenge appears in the form of a dangerous quest to defeat a fire dragon. Adventurers discuss the necessity of forming a large multi-party raid to handle the threat. A party of D-class adventurers approaches him, admitting they need his strength to feel safe. Liam coldly refuses their invitation, intending to work alone as always. The leader apologizes, acknowledging the rumors that Liam only accepts solo quests. Despite the rejection, the man persists and asks Liam to join them even if he fights independently. During the mission, Liam hears their cries for help and steps in to save them from the dragon. The battle reaches a chaotic climax as the dragon is defeated amidst the confusion. Relief washes over the group as they realize everyone has survived the encounter safely. Liam is taken aback when the leader approaches him with genuine gratitude. The man insists on thanking him properly for saving their lives once they return to town. At a tavern, the group treats Liam to a feast, urging him to eat as much as he wants. The leader smiles warmly and invites Liam to stay in touch if he is interested. Liam stuffs his face with food, realizing this act of kindness is what made him join their party. He recalls the warmth of their companionship, acknowledging he had finally found his first friend. He envisioned a future of fighting, earning money, and drinking with these comrades forever. His secret is shattered one day when his horn is discovered, exposing him as a demon. To his shock, his friend accepts the truth instantly, asking with a smile what there is to hide. Looking back, he laments that his first taste of a happy life was tragically short-lived. The party takes a job guarding a wealthy merchant with connections to a neighboring nation. The mission becomes dangerous as they pass through a forest infested with cunning demons. They are strictly warned that the cargo is important and must not be dropped under any circumstances. The carriage hits a bump, causing the precious wooden crate to tip precariously. The box crashes violently to the ground, shattering upon impact. Liam gasps in horror as the accident occurs right before his eyes. Liam recalls the origin of his debt, which began with the eggs of a rare phantasm and a wealthy merchant's cargo. He suggested to his group that they earn the money back steadily to pay off their deep debt. However, his leader ignored the plan and went ahead to rob a nobleman's house for quick cash. Liam realized what was happening and rushed in to stop the crime, but he was the one who got caught. He desperately tried to explain to the authorities that he was actually trying to stop the thief. His protests fell on deaf ears as the leader escaped with the stolen goods, leaving Liam to take the fall. The leader framed him, claiming that as a demon, Liam couldn't control his own greed. Liam froze in horror as his comrades smiled at him, sealing the betrayal with a cruel look. The weight of the betrayal crushed him as he realized he had been completely set up by his own team. He spiraled into self-doubt, agonizingly questioning what was wrong with him to deserve this. He wondered if his birth as a demon was the sin that condemned him to such a fate. He screamed internally that he hadn't done anything wrong, but his innocence meant nothing. He had naively believed that he and his party members were on the same side. The leader confessed he decided to use Liam because demons are viewed differently than humans. With a callous goodbye, the leader left him behind bars to take on the entire debt alone. The leader's false testimony branded Liam a criminal slave, destroying his entire future. In the present, Liam sits in the dark, reflecting that the world is merciless to demons no matter where they go. He wonders if his new master, Lady Sora, will be any different from the people who betrayed him. He notes that she is small and slender, sharing his dark hair and pale skin. Although she looks like a child, he senses from her demeanor that she is probably in her late teens. He marvels that she bathed, warmed, fed, and treated him with potions like a human being. He experienced a physical and emotional comfort he had never known in his entire life. The moment she called his name struck him deeply, resonating with a forgotten sense of self. He blushes, admitting to himself that he was genuinely happy to hear his name spoken. He reclaims his identity, affirming he is not trash or a bug, but Liam, a name he almost forgot. Anxiety grips him as he waits, terrified by the thought that she might never come back. He sits alone, curled up on the floor, wondering if he will ever hear her call his name again. Suddenly, the door opens and Sora cheerfully announces she is back. She apologizes for being late, completely unaware of the panic he has been enduring. Overwhelmed with relief, Liam lunges forward and clings to her in a desperate embrace. Sora is startled by the sudden contact and asks what is wrong with him. She looks down at him with concern, asking if he is okay as he continues to hold on to her. Liam wraps his arms tightly around her, whispering that it is good to see her again. She calmly explains that she was simply running errands and hadn't meant to cause alarm. Liam trembles, confessing his terrifying thought that she had thrown him away like trash. She firmly denies it, promising him that she would never do such a cruel thing. Realizing the depth of his worry, she apologizes for taking so long to return. She notices the darkness surrounding them and asks why he didn't switch on the lights. Walking forward, she wonders aloud where the lamp is located in the dim room. She lights the lamp, the sudden glow illuminating her face as she calls his name. Holding the light, she tells him that if he ever fears she has abandoned him again, she instructs him to simply come look for her, asking if that will ease his anxiety. Liam stares at her wide-eyed, the warmth of the light reflecting in his gaze. Image 8. He whispers a quiet yes, accepting her offer with visible relief. An internal thought crosses his mind, realizing just how unique this woman is. He compares her to his past, noting how vastly different she is from his previous master. He marvels that she never leaves him and actually calls him by his name, Liam. Tears well up in his eyes as the realization of her kindness sinks deep into his heart. Image 11. She asks him to help unload her shopping haul onto the bed. She casually mentions that she bought clothes for him since he can't stay naked forever. Liam stares in shock at the mention of his own clothes, while she apologizes for choosing them herself. She smiles brightly, confident that they will find a style he likes eventually. He stands frozen, overwhelmed by the casual generosity she displays. Image 14. She places the pile of new garments on the bed with a soft thud. Image 15. She holds up her own outfit, declaring that those on the bed belong to him. She asks if he is comfortable changing there and points out where the shoes are kept. She steps out to change in the bathroom, closing the door with a cheerful bye. Liam clutches the fabric to his chest, murmuring that she even provided him with clothes. He gazes down at the garments, his heart full as he repeats his own name. She calls out that she bought them a size big, expecting him to gain weight in the future. He pulls the shirt over his head, replying that the size doesn't bother him at all. The door clicks open as she announces that she is finished changing. Sora steps out in her new outfit, admitting she hasn't dressed like this in a long time. Sora asks how the clothes fit, turning to him with a bright and expectant smile. Liam fumbles with the final adjustments, muttering that he is just about ready. He thanks her sincerely, admitting that the new outfit actually looks quite good. Sora beams with delight, telling him he looks incredibly tall and handsome. She notes with satisfaction that they are both finally dressed properly for the world. Full of energy, she proposes that they go out exploring together the next day. She adds that they should take the opportunity to remove his slave collar as well. Liam hesitates when asked about the magic, hinting it isn't just the collar binding him. Sora insists he doesn't need it, but he reminds her that he is a criminal slave. He gazes at her with intense emotion, murmuring her name in a soft voice. Sora pauses, sensing the sudden shift in mood as he struggles for words. He bows his head low, vowing never to forget the kindness she has shown him. She laughs it off lightly, insisting that she hasn't done anything that serious. Lying in bed, she reflects happily on how well she and Liam are getting along. The moon shines silently over the room as the night settles around them. Sora wakes to the sound of strange, stifled breathing coming from nearby. Her eyes snap open in the darkness as she realizes the noise is coming from Liam. She freezes in shock, trying to process the situation unfolding just feet away. Horror dawns on her as she realizes he is masturbating right next to her. She lies there in disbelief, listening to the wet sounds and questioning reality. Hiding under the covers, she wonders if he is crazy for doing this while she sleeps there. His hand grips the sheets tightly as his breathing becomes more ragged and desperate. She recalls hearing about this behavior from another slave but never expected to witness it. Frustration bubbles up as she wonders why he couldn't have just held out a little longer. She lies wide awake, her face twisted in a mix of awkwardness and annoyance. Her face burns as she mentally yells at him to stop making such alluring noises. She fumes at the audacity of him ignoring the fact that his master is right there. Staring at his silhouette, she questions what kind of person would be so bold. The movement stops abruptly, leaving her wondering if the ordeal is finally over. Liam lets out a shuddering breath as the wave of pleasure washes over him. A heavy silence returns to the room as the tension dissipates into the dark. He stares blankly to the side, flushed and recovering from the release. Sora stirs from her sleep, letting out a soft hum as she slowly wakes up. She stares at Liam's back, wondering how long he intends to stay standing there. She sighs internally, admitting she has absolutely no idea what to say in this situation. Liam stands frozen with a flushed face, seemingly wrestling with his own thoughts. He remains silent, his back turned to her as the tension in the room mounts. Sora quickly squeezes her eyes shut and feigns sleep as he approaches the bed. Liam gazes down at her while she silently wonders if he is finally finishing up. He turns his attention to the door, seemingly in deep contemplation. With a soft click, he steps out and closes the door behind him. Sora immediately snaps her eyes open and lets out an annoyed click of her tongue. She sits up with a dark expression, muttering a firm refusal to accept this situation. She decides that her confidence in their ability to work together has completely vanished. She wonders if he enjoys the thrill of barely being caught, but she cannot understand it. She resolves that she is not brave enough to entertain such a twisted hobby. Making up her mind, she decides she needs to get away from him immediately. Guilt pricks at her as she remembers promising not to discard him, but she feels she has no choice. She grabs her boots, mentally apologizing as she prepares to throw him away after all. She pulls her boots on, whispering a heartfelt apology to Liam for breaking her word. Shouldering her bag, she sneaks out, convincing herself he will be happier without her. Liam suddenly looms behind her like a giant shadow, demanding to know where she is going. Terrified, she frantically lies that she was just getting up to get a drink of water. Liam immediately offers to get it for her, effectively cutting off her escape route. Sora stands frozen with her travel bag, realizing her excuse has trapped her. Liam calmly picks up a pitcher and begins to prepare a glass of water. The water flows steadily into the cup as Sora watches in awkward silence. He hands her the glass with a smile, and she accepts it while trembling. She stares at the cup in bewilderment, wondering what just happened. She realizes she is fully dressed to leave, yet he strangely makes no comment on it. Liam leans in with a sharp gaze, asking if her throat is moistened yet. She stammers a confused yes, completely thrown off by his nonchalant behavior. He takes the glass back and abruptly bids her goodnight, effectively dismissing her. Liam smiles with an unsettling intensity, leaving Sora trapped in his pace. Sora feels an immense pressure to retreat into the safety of her bed and hide from the awkwardness. Liam bids her a simple goodnight as she cowers away from him in embarrassment. She crawls under the covers, hoping to escape the reality of what she just witnessed. Unable to settle down, she throws off the blanket in a sudden fit of frustration. She stares up at the ceiling, realizing that her attempt to escape into sleep has failed miserably. Trying to rationalize the situation, she tells herself that Liam's actions were probably just inevitable biology. She recalls hearing that men often struggle to control their intense sexual desires. It occurs to her that perhaps his appetite and need for sleep were simply satisfied in that moment. She wonders if the incident happened entirely without his conscious control. Convinced she is right, she decides not to discard him but hopes he will be more discreet next time. Satisfied with her conclusion, she exclaims to herself that this new mindset is good. She resolves to sleep and forget the whole thing, swearing she won't let it happen again. Silence finally falls over the room as they both drift into slumber side by side. Liam breathes softly in his sleep, the tension of the night fading away. Morning arrives with the chirping of birds, signaling the start of a new day. Sora snaps her eyes open, the memory of the previous night rushing back instantly. She bolts upright in bed to find Liam already awake and sitting nearby. He greets her politely, asking if she slept well despite the night's events. Sora stares at him, admitting internally that she couldn't forget and spent the night wondering. She sits motionless under the covers, a heavy silence hanging over her morning mood. With a serious expression, she addresses him and declares that they need to talk. The chapter opens with Sora and Liam standing together, hinting at a shift in their dynamic regarding Liam's habits. Liam initiates a serious discussion, asking if she knows what he intends to talk about. He confirms his intent with a solemn nod, preparing to address the issue. Sora interrupts to request that he stop using formal honorifics with her. Liam pauses, repeating the word in confusion as he processes the request. She explains that she wants to remove his collar so no one can distinguish master from slave. She declares her desire for them to be equal partners, assuring him she will never abuse him. Sora admits she isn't perfect and hopes he will be lenient with her in return. Liam touches his chin in deep thought, considering her proposal. He suddenly drops the formalities, calling her Sora and asking if this is what she wants. Sora flinches visibly, caught off guard by the sudden intimacy of her name. She admits to having mixed feelings about the abrupt switch to casual speech. Liam coldly states that changing the wording doesn't alter the fact that he is still her slave. She accepts his point but clarifies that she doesn't view him as a slave. The conversation shifts gears as she announces that the real issue starts now. She confronts him directly, asking why he couldn't control himself last night. Liam feigns ignorance, prompting her to ask if she needs to spell it out. She drops the bomb, explicitly mentioning the masturbation she heard happening beside her. Liam freezes instantly, his face going blank with realization. He stammers a flustered apology, clearly caught red-handed. He defends himself by claiming he couldn't stand it and had absolutely no choice. Sora explodes, reminding him that she was sleeping right next to him while he did it. He counters that she should be grateful he didn't lay a hand on her instead. He adds that she should also be thankful he only had to do it once. Sora is appalled, shouting that her standards for happiness aren't low enough to be grateful for that. Liam dismisses her worry, stating he doesn't think anything further will happen. He explains that any other ogre would react with violence if touched, asking, "How dare you?" He wears a look of strange pride, leaving Sora completely baffled by his logic. He questions if she is simply ignorant about the true nature of demons. She retorts by asking if he is simply incapable of using reason. Liam denies the accusation of being irrational with a sharp look. He clarifies that his behavior isn't a lack of reason, but simply an excess of energy. Sora clutches her head in frustration, asking why he has to be so difficult. She sits on her bed in disbelief while Liam wonders what kind of sheltered life she has led. Liam explains that ogres come into strong heat almost every night once they mature. He adds that their energy levels far exceed those of any other species. Sora looks down in embarrassment, admitting she had no idea about this biology. Liam confirms it is simply an unavoidable instinct of the ogre race. He shifts the topic to demons, explaining they have a very hard time producing children. He notes that conceiving even once in a lifetime is considered a golden miracle. He elaborates that interspecies breeding is even harder, requiring frequent attempts to succeed. Sora murmurs in understanding as she processes the evolutionary logic. Liam looks away with a pained expression, struggling to explain his own specific lineage. Sora asks if he is a half-breed, but Liam corrects her assumption. He reveals he cannot be called a half-breed because his father's demon blood is too dominant. Sora lets out a heavy sigh, clearly overwhelmed by this complex information. She acknowledges that while it may be instinct, the situation is still problematic. She bluntly asks if he implies he intends to do it every single night next to her. Liam looks away and awkwardly promises to try and be patient. Sora forces a strained smile and admits she wants to get rid of him. Liam is confused while Sora holds her head, overwhelmed by his habits. She complains that she hates high sex drives and regrets not researching beforehand. Her expression darkens as she bluntly states she wants to throw him away. The words, "throw away," hang in the air, striking Liam with palpable fear. He lunges forward and reminds her of her promise never to leave him. Sora flinches and looks away, weakly murmuring a hesitant confirmation. Liam leans in with terrifying intensity, declaring he will follow her. Sora recoils in shock as he vows to find her no matter where she runs. He shouts that he is only doing exactly what she told him to do yesterday. Realization strikes Sora like a lightning bolt as she remembers her own words. She smiles awkwardly as Liam demands to know if she intends to break her promise. Fear creeps in as she wonders what he might do if she actually tries to discard him. Liam stares at her in disbelief, asking how she bought him knowing nothing about demons. Sora simply hums with a mysterious smile, keeping her secrets to herself. Sora drops the bombshell revelation that she is actually not from this world at all. She admits it is a long story but suggests they start by moving forward for now. Inviting him to walk with her, she asks if he wants to go out while they talk. Liam accepts the information with a stoic expression as they overlook the city skyline. She hesitates while walking, admitting she isn't entirely sure about everything herself. Walking through the streets, Liam clarifies that she is claiming to be from another world. When asked if he has heard of such things, he denies knowing any similar stories. He muses on the concept of another world possessing its own distinct civilization. Sora nervously asks if he has told anyone else about her strange origins. Liam advises her to keep it quiet, warning that discussing it is dangerous. He explains that such claims are treated as madness here, though he believes she isn't lying. He grimly notes that even believers couldn't stop the abductions and experiments, silencing her. Dead serious, she insists that hiring a bouncer like him is a necessary precaution. A wave of relief hits her as she realizes Liam truly believes her story. She stares at his back in silence, processing his unexpected trust and support. They arrive at their destination, a large and imposing building towering above them. Sora cheerfully announces that it is finally time to remove his slave collar. Liam hesitates, asking if she is absolutely sure she wants to take it off. She insists it is okay, admitting she hates seeing him wearing that thing. With a snap, the collar releases, exposing his neck to the air for the first time. A small sound escapes as the metal ring is fully detached from his skin. The clerk confirms the documents are processed and the procedure is officially complete. He asks to collect the collar, and Sora eagerly hands it over to be taken away. Liam touches his own neck in shock, unable to comprehend the sudden freedom. He mutters that his neck feels incredibly weird without the heavy weight around it. Sora smiles knowingly, telling him that she understands exactly how that feels. She points out that the untanned skin on his neck is the only trace left of the collar. Self-consciously touching her own neck, she begins to worry about her own tan lines. She excuses herself to the bathroom, asking Liam if he minds waiting outside for a moment. Liam stares at her in silence, perhaps sensing her underlying anxiety about leaving him. She quickly assures him that she isn't going to run away or abandon him. He relaxes and agrees to wait outside until she is finished. Sora stares into the mirror, taking a moment to compose herself in private. She sighs with immense relief, thankful that she is physically okay after everything. Background gossip catches her ear as women whisper about a demon standing outside. They call his presence bad luck, and Sora freezes as she realizes they mean Liam. A sudden bad feeling grips her, and she bursts out the door screaming Liam's name. She frantically scans the street, asking where he has gone in the crowd. A rock strikes Liam violently, catching him off guard as he stands alone. Terror seizes her as she screams his name upon seeing the ambush. Liam hunches over to protect himself as a merciless hail of stones rains down on him. She spots a massive rock flying towards him and screams a desperate warning to look out. He roars at her to stay back, desperate to keep her out of the line of fire. Ignoring the danger, she rushes to his side and insists she is fine. A heavy rock slams violently into her head, cutting her words short in an instant. Liam screams her name in pure terror as she collapses senseless into his arms. Liam catches Sora as she stumbles, asking frantically if she is all right. She is dazed, sweat beading on her face as the impact disorients her. Clutching her head, she cries out in pain from the sudden blow. Liam looks up with sharp concern while she tries to regain her bearings. A young boy stands frozen with a stone in his hand, looking terrified. Sora steps between Liam and the attackers, shouting at them to stop immediately. She furiously demands to know why they are throwing stones at her child. The boy stammers, pointing out that she is the one bleeding from the head. Liam tries to intervene but she silences him, ignoring her own injury. The boy argues that Liam is a demon and too dangerous to be ignored. Another boy adds fearfully that the demon might curse them if left alone. Ignoring their excuses, Sora coldly asks them to state their ages. They reveal they are 14 and 17, and she states she is 16. She asserts her seniority over the attacker, demanding he show her some respect. The boys loom over her, but she stands her ground without flinching. Liam calls her name nervously, worried about the escalating confrontation. Holding up the stone, she asks if they understand the lethal consequences of their actions. She lectures that a hit in the wrong place kills, forcing a submissive answer from the boy. She begins to define Liam's relationship to her with fierce protectiveness. She declares with absolute conviction that he belongs to her and her alone. Her voice drops to a threatening growl as she vows never to forgive them if they hurt him again. She demands to know if the boy threw the rock with the specific intention of killing. Liam tries to de-escalate, insisting that he is fine and she should calm down. She snaps back that it is not fine, insisting that he has been hurt. She challenges their prejudice, asking what exactly makes demons dangerous. She interrogates them on whether Liam actually did anything to provoke or attack them. The boy sheepishly admits that Liam did nothing and was just standing there. She scolds them for attacking a defenseless person based solely on superstition and rumors. With a piercing glare, she commands them to apologize immediately. The other children pressure the culprit to hurry up and get it over with. The boys stand in uncomfortable silence, realizing the weight of their mistake. The boy bows his head in shame, shouting a loud apology for his actions. The attackers bow their heads in shame, apologizing profusely and promising never to repeat their mistake. Liam and Sora watch in silence as the group scrambles away to escape the awkward confrontation. Sora shouts that she forgives them, her voice ringing out with unexpected intensity. The crowd begins to disperse as Liam stands tall and protective beside her. The villagers drift away, leaving the two of them alone in the aftermath of the violence. A heavy silence descends upon the street as the adrenaline begins to fade. They stand quietly for a moment, letting the tension drain from their bodies. Sora lets out a long, shuddering sigh as the reality of their safety sets in. Turning to him in a panic, she asks if he is all right after taking those hits. She gasps in horror at the blood dripping from his head and cries out that it must hurt. Liam ignores his own bleeding wound to point out that she is injured as well. He lifts his shirt to inspect his torso, asking her to check the damage to his body. Sora stares in shock at the dark, angry bruises covering his chest and stomach. Fumbling for her supplies, she worries aloud that her last low-grade potion won't be enough. Noticing the lingering stares of the crowd, she suggests they move to a more private spot. She places her hand on his skin, preparing to channel her healing magic into his wounds. Light flares as the scratches vanish, and she announces with relief that the surface injuries are gone. Moving quickly, she tells him to turn so she can treat the damage on his back. Liam flinches and lets out a low groan as the magic knits his bruised flesh. He suddenly snatches the bottle from her hand, refusing to let her waste any more on him. He insists his demon blood will heal him and demands she save the rest for herself. Sora yelps in surprise as the conversation shifts abruptly to her own condition. She gently touches the scar on his forehead, relieved to find it is old and painless. Liam orders her to remove her cloak, distracting her by praising the effectiveness of her potions. He reaches out with a serious expression, his hand moving towards her face. His fingers brush against her sensitive skin, causing her to let out a startled gasp. She pulls back laughing, complaining that it tickles and insisting her neck is fine. Liam suddenly pulls her into a crushed embrace, silencing her protests with his warmth. Buried in her shoulder, he whispers that seeing her in danger pains his heart more than any wound. He cups her face and forbids her from ever endangering herself for him again, despite his gratitude. His intense gaze locks onto hers, conveying the absolute seriousness of his request. Sora relents under his stare, quietly promising that she won't do it again. Sora hesitates for a moment, her expression serious as she prepares to give him a new order. She firmly commands Liam to stop blindly obeying every order he is given. She instructs him to prioritize his own safety, urging him to run or fight back if necessary. Liam stares at her in visible confusion, unable to comprehend the shift in her authority. He stands in stunned silence as the weight of her permission sinks into his mind. He gazes into her eyes and solemnly promises to follow her new directive. Sora smiles brightly, satisfied that they have reached this crucial understanding. With their bond renewed, she cheerfully declares that since they are healed, it is time to move. Liam anticipates her plan, realizing they need to buy items to conceal his conspicuous horns. Sora apologizes with deep regret, admitting she never realized the word demon would cause such chaos. She throws her fist in the air and shouts a strange catchphrase while Liam thanks her quietly. Liam questions her strange words, flustering Sora into dismissing it as mere nonsense. She leads the way, announcing her intention to return to the shop from yesterday. Her boots click against the stone pavement as she marches forward with purpose. Sora spots a potential foraging spot while Liam expresses interest in seeing other equipment. Liam stops walking and asks if she is a herbalist, prompting Sora to realize her omission. She explains that she is currently an apprentice herbalist planning to apply to the guild. She adds that she makes her living selling potions, which sparks an idea in Liam. He suggests that he should register as an adventurer to support her work. They arrive at the storefront, but Liam abruptly stops her before she can enter. He warns her that this specific shop caters only to civilians who do not engage in combat. He steers her away, promising to take her to a place that actually serves people like them. Sora cheerfully offers to show Liam around the city as they overlook the sprawling urban landscape from a high vantage point. She asks if he knows anything about the city of Grosso, but Liam stoically denies having any knowledge. He explains that his past as a slave robbed him of any freedom to learn, causing Sora to grimace with sympathy. Sora reasons that a city of this size must surely possess a second-hand shop specifically for adventurers. She decides that finding such a store will be their main objective, and Liam quietly agrees to follow her lead. Spotting a passerby, Sora declares that they need to ask around town to find the shop's location. A local directs them down the street, informing them that the second-hand store is just around the corner. The old man pauses mid-sentence, his eyes widening in alarm as he notices the horns on Liam's head. Sora abruptly thanks the man and drags Liam away in a hurry, desperate to escape the locals' stunned reaction. Liam follows in confusion, asking what the sudden rush is about as she pulls him along the street. She marches forward with determination, realizing they must cover his horns immediately to avoid further trouble. Relief washes over her as she spots the building ahead and announces that they have found the store. Liam looks up at the structure, confirming that the locals' directions were indeed correct. Sora points to the entrance and cheerfully leads the way, inviting him to step inside with her. The shopkeeper calls out a loud welcome as the two of them step into the cluttered interior. Sora looks around in awe, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of items packed onto the shelves. Weapons and gear line the walls, leaving her marveling at the chaotic assortment of adventurer equipment. The messy display reminds her of a bargain wagon sale, sparking a sense of excitement in her. She picks up a pair of knee pads and curiously asks Liam to identify the strange equipment. Liam examines the item with a practiced eye, seemingly impressed by the craftsmanship. He notes that they are made of geogelm rather than leather, declaring them to be of very good quality. Next, he inspects a pouch, identifying it as being crafted from the tail of a creature called a naluba. He explains that while the material is water-resistant, it has a critical weakness to fire. Liam moves to a clawed weapon, beginning to explain it comes from a buzza before Sora cuts him off. She snaps at him, asking if demons really have to give everything such terrifying and ominous names. The shopkeeper suddenly appears behind them with a friendly smile, asking if he can help them find anything. Sora jumps in surprise but quickly stammers out a response to his offer of assistance. She stares intensely at the bandana on his head, realizing it is exactly the kind of item she needs. Pointing at his headgear, she explains she wants to put something similar on her companion to hide his features. The shopkeeper touches his bandana, but his gaze suddenly locks onto Liam with a look of shock. He shouts, "An Oni!" in sudden recognition, causing the atmosphere in the shop to freeze instantly. Just as quickly, he clears his throat and apologizes, breaking the tension with an awkward cough. The shopkeeper apologizes that he cannot sell the specific item she requested but asks her to wait. He returns with a substitute, suggesting it is very close to what she is looking for. Liam examines the fabric as the merchant explains it is woven from milosect cocoons. Fingers trace the weave, testing the quality of the material in silence. Liam nods with a slight smile, admitting that the quality is not bad at all. The merchant boasts that the fabric is rare, sourced from a land full of ferocious demons. He emphasizes that finding such sturdy yet soft material at this price is a steal. Liam makes the decision immediately, telling Sora that he will take it. The shopkeeper thanks them while Sora smiles, happy they found something good for him. The merchant asks what else they are looking for today. Sora lights up, remembering they need equipment for collecting herbs and potion ingredients. She turns to Liam, asking for his expert opinion on what she should get. Liam rubs his chin, noting that her small size might make finding second-hand gear difficult. She thanks him for the advice and heads into the aisles to search. Sora calls out that she has found something promising. She steps out wearing the gear, telling him she tried to look for the right items. Liam looks at her with wide eyes, impressed by her selection. He praises the Bowie knife she chose, noting it is beautiful and practical. He explains that the blade is ideal for self-defense and cutting herbs with minimal force. Sora immediately agrees to buy it, trusting his judgment implicitly. Liam inspects the leather gloves and pouch, noting the rare quality of the Moorhawk cowhide. He points out the hard knee pads, explaining they are essential for the kneeling required in herb gathering. Sora beams at him, remarking that his adventurer past makes him an expert guide. Liam suddenly points to a rack, advising her to buy a specific piece of equipment not for her. Sora looks at him in confusion, wondering what he has spotted. The item in question is a sturdy leather vest displayed on a mannequin. The shopkeeper compliments Liam's eye, stating the Orizado leather piece just arrived yesterday. He announces the price of 95,000 G for the set, causing Sora to sweat at the cost. She stands frozen, having no idea if that price is high or low for armor. Liam admits the vest is too big for him to wear in his current state. He insists she buy it anyway, promising that she won't lose a penny on the investment. Sora looks at him uncertainly, asking if he is really sure about this expense. Sora stands before the shopkeeper and confidently declares that she will buy the item. She steps out of the shop with Liam, breathing a sigh of relief as she thanks the merchant. Liam asks how much she spent, and Sora casually reveals the staggering price of 138,000 G. He is shocked by the amount as she hands him back his heavy wallet. Sora admits she cannot count money well, so Liam offers to teach her later. Her eyes light up with gratitude as she accepts his helpful offer. Suddenly, she realizes his horns are exposed and panic sets in. She urgently tells Liam that they need to hide his demonic features immediately. She wraps a cloth around his head to conceal his horns from public view. Sora asks him how it feels while checking her handiwork. Liam asks if this makeshift disguise is enough, and she confirms it is the best she can do. He smiles gently and suggests they finally head home. Sora stops in her tracks, suddenly remembering a pressing question she has for him. She asks why he specifically instructed her to buy that set of Orizado armor. Liam glances down at the bundle in his arms and prepares to explain his reasoning. He looks at her with a knowing smile, hinting at a secret he noticed. He reveals that the material is not actually Orizado leather as advertised. He urges her to take a closer look at the texture of the item. He points out that the scales are uneven and scattered all over the place. Liam identifies the material as genuine wyvern leather due to the specific spots. Sora gasps in shock, struggling to process the revelation that it is a wyvern. She is thrilled to finally recognize a monster name from her own knowledge base. She pauses to think but realizes that wyverns do not exist in her world. She wonders if the shopkeeper simply made a mistake regarding the leather type. Liam dismisses that idea, explaining that wyvern leather is too rare to be mistaken. Sora asks if wyvern armor is really as impressive as he makes it sound. Liam explains that physical attacks fatal to Orizado gear won't even scratch wyvern armor. Sora marvels at the incredible durability of the equipment she just purchased. Liam adds that it resists magic and typically sells for 10 times the price. Sora freezes as the astronomical value of the item sinks in. Her eyes turn into dollar signs as she immediately proposes selling it for profit. She begins frantically calculating the potential earnings of 950,000 G. Liam interrupts her greedy spiral with a serious expression. He suggests they should keep the armor so he can use it for protection. Sora argues that she got it cheap and may never find such a treasure again. She suddenly realizes that having her escort well defended is actually a smarter investment. Liam looks at her with uncertainty, asking if she is sure she doesn't want the money. Sora smiles warmly and confirms she has made up her mind to keep it. She cheerfully hands the armor over to him, telling him she is grateful he can use it. Liam tries it on and notes that it is a little big on his frame. Sora suggests it will fit perfectly once he gains some muscle, and proposes they head home. They walk away together under the open sky, satisfied with their successful shopping trip. Sora steps out of the bathhouse feeling refreshed, towel drying her hair while marveling at the luxury of having hot water available. Liam walks past her toward the bath, accepting her permission to go next with a simple and obedient acknowledgement. Left alone in the quiet room, Sora hums a soft tune to herself while finishing her post-bath routine. She turns her attention to the wooden cabinet, rummaging through their supplies to retrieve a specific item she stashed away. Her hands close around a heavy drawstring pouch, the weight of their remaining funds settling comfortably into her grip. With a decisive motion, she loosens the strings and prepares to append the bag onto the floorboards to take stock. She shakes the pouch upside down, ensuring every last piece of currency is dislodged from the fabric folds. A cascade of wealth crashes down as gold, silver, and copper coins scatter across the wooden floor in a glittering, metallic heap. Sora sits before the pile and begins the tedious task of sorting, separating the mixed currency into distinct categories of gold, silver, and copper. She neatly stacks the coins into organized towers, deciding to get everything in order first before involving her companion in the final count. Her plan is to organize the finances independently and then bring Liam into the conversation to verify the totals. A sudden realization hits her that a significant amount of small change is missing, likely spent by Liam during their earlier shopping trip. She recalls her own ignorance regarding the currency, remembering how she simply grabbed the gold coins without counting because she didn't know their value. The door opens to reveal a freshly bathed Liam, and Sora blinks in surprise at how incredibly fast he finished washing up. Liam towel dries his hair as he walks in, confirming with a casual reply that he managed to warm himself up sufficiently in that short time. Sora narrows her eyes as she notices water still dripping from his hair, realizing he barely dried himself at all. She immediately scolds him for his carelessness, warning the sturdy ogre that leaving his hair wet is a surefire way to catch a cold. Taking matters into her own hands, she throws a large towel over his head to begin drying him properly. She begins rubbing his head vigorously, using her full strength to soak up the water from his dark hair while he lets out a surprised sound. Liam winces under the aggressive assault and complains, asking her to wipe more gently as she scrubs at his scalp. As his large hand reaches up to stabilize her, the sensation of his grip triggers a sudden, dormant memory in Sora's mind. The image of her father surfaces from the depths of her past, his face kind and gentle in her recollection. She remembers how he used to dry her hair in the exact same way, a tender moment of care overlapping with the present situation. Her internal monologue shifts as she compares Liam to a powerful monster who has no idea how to control his immense strength when touching a small animal. Liam looks down with concern and asks if he hurt her, but Sora just laughs it off, the tension melting into warmth. She beams at him with a bright smile, assuring him it's fine and thanking him for the care before declaring the drying session over. Snapping back to business, Sora reminds herself that she needs to teach Liam how to count money now that his hair is mostly dry. They sit together on the floor amidst the piles of coins, formally bowing to one another as they begin the lesson in economics. Sora starts the lecture by explaining the hierarchy of currency, holding up fingers to indicate there are two distinct types of gold coins. She points to the large coin representing 10,000 gold and the smaller variant worth 5,000, distinguishing them clearly by size. Liam listens attentively as Sora moves on to the next category, explaining that silver and copper coins also follow the two-type rule. She holds up a silver piece, clarifying that the standard silver coin is worth 1,000 while the smaller version is valued at 500. Liam explains the currency values, pointing out that standard copper coins are worth 100 G while the smaller ones are worth 10 G. When Sora asks about finer fractions like 1 G, Liam clarifies that such small amounts are simply paid out in copper coins. He firmly states that the smallest unit is 10 G and anything less doesn't exist, cutting off her line of questioning. Liam lays out the full hierarchy of currency, detailing values from the massive 100,000 G platinum coin down to the common copper. Shifting the tone, Liam turns to Sora with a challenge to test her grasp of the currency. He orders her to extract exactly 1860 G from the pile, catching her off guard with the sudden practical exam. Sora accepts the challenge, muttering the target number as she strategizes to form the amount using the fewest coins possible. Focusing intently, she scans the scattered coins to calculate the optimal combination. Silence falls as she mentally arranges the values, her expression serious while she works through the math. With a decisive slide of her hand, she separates the chosen coins from the pile and presents her answer. She beams with pride while asking for his verdict, and Liam confirms she nailed the calculation perfectly. Wasting no time, Liam throws a harder figure of 7,240 G at her, keeping the pressure on despite her hesitation. She quickly assembles the new amount and pushes the coins forward for inspection. Impressed by her efficiency, Liam smiles and praises her for how fast she learns. Sora throws her hands up in triumph, relieved that her understanding of the currency is solid enough to work. Abruptly shifting gears, She decides she has had enough practice and suggests they wrap things up. She admits her education halted 7 years ago and expresses relief that she can still handle the math. Liam gently praises her intelligence, bringing a bright, contented smile to her face. She offers a sincere thanks for his help, which he brushes off with a casual reassurance. Sora suddenly pivots the conversation, her expression changing as a new thought strikes her. She reflects on the past, admitting there was something she remained unaware of back then. Sora realizes Jake paid a fair price for the map when she was destitute, expressing gratitude that he was the one she crossed paths with. Liam interrupts the reminiscence, suggesting it is time for them to get some sleep. Tension spikes in the room as Sora sits stiffly on her bed, thinking that the dreaded moment has finally arrived. She nervously asks about his plans, and he simply confirms he is turning in for the night. He pauses, sensing her anxiety, and starts to speak to clear the heavy atmosphere. Sora panics and wildly misunderstands his intentions, while Liam calmly states he will sleep later. Liam tries to explain his behavior to calm her down, but the explanation only seems to fluster her more. He reassures her bluntly that he has no intention of touching her because she is just a child, telling her to sleep. As he turns off the lights to end the discussion, Sora quietly mutters that she isn't a child anymore. She speaks up to correct him, asserting firmly that she is already 18 years old. Liam freezes, visibly shocked by the revelation of her true age. Liam stammers in disbelief, his face flushing deep red as he struggles to process the number she just dropped on him. Sora flashes a cheerful peace sign and confirms that she turned 18 exactly 4 months ago. She nods to verify the fact, leaving Liam to question the reality of the situation one more time. Liam buries his face in his hand, groaning that he honestly thought she was 15 at most, while Sora stares at him blankly. He quickly tries to salvage the mood, promising he won't touch her just because she is technically an adult now. Sora looks at him with deadpan eyes, noting that his specific phrasing isn't exactly reassuring. Liam clenches his fists and visibly struggles for control, chanting mantras about willpower to keep his rising urges in check. Deciding it is safer to ignore his internal battle, Sora turns away and mutters that she will pretend she heard nothing. She offers a final, cheerful farewell to end the awkward conversation and heads to sleep. With a sharp rustle of sheets, she dives under the covers to escape the tension of the room. Liam stands frozen and sweating, managing to squeeze out a strained goodnight before the silence takes over. Darkness fills the room, but Sora lies wide awake, her eyes snapping open as a strange sound breaks the quiet. A curse escapes her lips as she realizes she can't just drift off peacefully. She bolts up in frustration, realizing she has been woken up at this ungodly hour by the noises coming from the other bed. Liam is lost in his own world, letting out breathless moans as he completely fails to keep it down. Sora stares at his back with utter disdain, wishing he would just turn over and stop his moaning. Oblivious to her wakefulness, Liam whispers about how glamorous she looks in the moonlight. Sora listens to his embarrassing monologue, thinking that whatever he is doing, it absolutely sucks. He continues to pant heavily, the sounds of his exertion filling the small room. Sweat pours down his flushed face as he reaches the peak of his solo activity. Sora finally snaps and calls out, telling him to just go to sleep if he is finished with his business. Liam pauses, panting heavily with a dazed look in his eyes as reality crashes back in. Suddenly he starts up again, prompting Sora to jerk her head up in sheer disbelief that he is still going. She buries her head under the pillow in agony, desperate to block out the unwanted background music of his lust. Tension hangs in the air as the night promises danger, leaving Sora uneasy while Liam sits nearby. The scene shifts abruptly to a quiet, sunlit park where Sora stands alone, confused by the sudden change in scenery. She looks around with wide eyes, trying to piece together why this familiar landscape has replaced the room she was just in. Recognition dawns as she identifies the location as the park near her old home, deepening the mystery of her presence there. Checking the time, she realizes it is 9 o'clock and deduces she must have skipped school to come here. A sudden rustling from the bushes breaks her train of thought, drawing her attention to something emerging from the greenery. A loud bark echoes through the air as a furry shape bursts forth from the foliage. Sora's face lights up with instant recognition as she calls out the name of her dog, Beatrice. She scolds the excited animal for sneaking out again, warning Beatrice that she is going to get in trouble for this escapade. Sora laughs at the hypocrisy, admitting that she is hardly one to talk since she is currently skipping school herself. She sits on the bench and suggests that since they are both displaced, They should just get along and stick together. The dog suddenly pounces, tackling Sora with affectionate energy as she cries out in surprise. Beatrice licks Sora's face relentlessly, causing her to giggle and protest that it tickles too much. Sora remarks on how much Beatrice has grown, noticing the dog's weight is heavier than she remembers. The perspective shifts, revealing the dog is now unnaturally massive, far larger than any normal pet. Panic sets in as the giant beast opens its jaws, and Sora screams in terror, convinced she is about to be devoured. Sora's eyes snap open in the real world, her breath hitching as she wakes from the intense nightmare. She lies in bed, disoriented and sweating, slowly realizing that the giant dog was just a vivid dream. Attempting to sit up, she finds herself trapped and unable to move, crushed under a heavy weight. To her shock, she finds Liam's face inches from hers, his arm thrown casually over her in deep sleep. He murmurs in his sleep, his face flushed as he whispers about seeing such a beauty. He continues his drowsy monologue, sighing contentedly that the sight is a relief for sore eyes. Sora panics internally, screaming in her mind that he is invading her bed despite his earlier promises. She freaks out over this chastity crisis, realizing that his pledge not to touch her has completely fallen apart. The irony hits her hard, recalling how she barely escaped becoming a pet slave only to land in this predicament. Determined to protect her virginity, she decides that if she is going to make a run for it, the time is now. She carefully begins to extricate herself from his grip, convinced that sneaking away is her only option. Sora creeps out of the bed, moving silently to avoid waking the sleeping ogre. Just as she thinks she is free, a hand shoots out and clamps firmly around her wrist. Liam stares at her with sharp, awake eyes, demanding to know what she meant by running away. Sora breaks into a cold sweat and plays dumb, wishing him a good morning while pretending she has no idea what he heard. Internally, she despairs, realizing that she must have spoken her escape plan out loud. Liam stares intensely, his eyes narrowing with sharp suspicion as the tension lingers in the room. Sora stammers a weak excuse about sleepwalking to the bathroom, trying desperately to cover up her failed escape attempt. Liam presses her on whether she was truly running away, but she vehemently denies it with a forced smile. She points out that the bathroom window is too small to escape through anyway, hoping logic will deter his skepticism. Eager to end the awkward interrogation, Sora announces she is leaving and hastily exits the room. Safe outside, she pulls her hood up and lets out a heavy sigh of relief. Gazing at the city, she realizes with dread that even the toilets are surveyed, making her escape plan nearly impossible. She notices Liam walking beside her and remarks that despite his disguise, he still stands out in the crowd. Sora admits she is relieved, however, as his hood successfully hides his horns from view. She notes that concealing his identity prevents the townspeople from throwing stones at him like they used to. Reflecting on the situation, she somberly wishes that the deep-seated prejudice against Onis would finally come to an end. Abruptly changing the mood, Sora confronts Liam and demands to know why he was in her bed that morning. Liam nonchalantly rubs his chin and claims he was simply sleepy, refusing to offer a better explanation. Sora snaps back instantly, shouting that his excuse is an absolute lie. He ignores her outburst with a whistle, and Sora decides there is no point in questioning him further. Shifting gears, she reminds him that their goal for the day is to register at the guild as adventurers. She asks if registering will allow her to sell her potions immediately, eager to make some money. Liam explains that once she registers, she will receive a guild card and registration card on the spot. Sora nods in understanding, mentioning that she has seen a registration card before. She recalls that Jake possessed one, bringing up the adventurer who helped her previously. At the mention of Jake's name, Liam's expression darkens into a terrifying scowl that frightens Sora. She explains that Jake was the one who carried her on his back from the slave trading house when she fainted. Realizing he might not remember, she promises to introduce them properly next time. Liam stares blankly for a moment before muttering a quiet acknowledgement. They arrive at the massive, church-like building that serves as the Adventurer Registration Center. A receptionist greets them and instructs them to fill out the necessary paperwork. Liam leans in and rudely mutters a comment about the receptionist's chest, leaving Sora mortified. The receptionist ignores him and explains the insurance fee and the conditions for license revocation. Liam steps up to the counter, stating he was once an adventurer but his license is currently revoked. He provides his name, Liam Gray, so the clerk can look up his records. The clerk inputs the name into a magical console to retrieve his past data. She stares at the screen as the information populates, confirming his identity. The screen displays his race clearly as Oni, verifying his non-human status. The clerk confirms that he was indeed a B-rank adventurer before his license was stripped. She informs him that his previous rank cannot be transferred because his revocation was due to becoming a criminal slave. Liam accepts the demotion calmly, while Sora laments the waste of losing such a high rank. The clerk turns to Sora, asking if she has the owner's approval to re-register him. Sora hurriedly confirms she is the owner and presents the proof of purchase to the guild staff. The clerk inspects the documents and acknowledges that everything is in order. She hands a new form to Liam, instructing him to fill it out to complete the registration. The clerk politely asks them to notify her once the paperwork is finished. Liam sits at the table staring intensely at the paper without moving a muscle. Sora watches him with growing confusion, calling out his name to get his attention. She asks what the matter is and why he hasn't started writing yet. Liam sweats nervously and admits he doesn't know the letters of this world. Sora smiles helplessly as Liam panics, realizing he can't read or write the language at all. Liam holds the registration paper, his expression serious as he realizes a logistical hurdle. He offers to take the pen, pointing out that Sora isn't familiar with the written language of this world. Sora flashes a bright, grateful smile and thanks him for covering for her lack of literacy. Liam leans over the counter, focusing intently as he begins to fill out the necessary fields. He carefully inscribes the details, his large hand moving steadily across the document. Sora peers curiously at the paper, asking him what the strange symbols he is writing actually mean. He explains he is filling in the base of operations section, translating the terms for her. Sora questions if he is writing an address, and he confirms that is the general idea. Liam clarifies that since adventurers are wanderers, their current inn serves as their registered base. He pauses with the quill hovering over the paper, humming thoughtfully as he hits a snag. Scratching his cheek, he admits he is stuck on what to write in the equipment column. Sora suggests listing knife, since they just bought one for her yesterday. She then turns the question to him, asking what kind of weapon he actually prefers to wield. Liam describes his past weapon, explaining that he used to handle a massive greatsword like a regular blade. He adds that ordinary longswords were simply too small for his stature to use effectively. Gesturing to emphasize the size, he notes his old blade alone was taller than Sora is right now. Sora asks if he wants to buy a greatsword immediately, but he decides to wait for a better opportunity. He shrugs off the lack of a weapon, stating he will fight barehanded like a gorilla in the meantime. Sora laughs and agrees he should eventually get one, watching him return to the paperwork. Liam decides on their registered classes, writing Magic Swordsman for himself and Potioneer for her. Sora stares at the title, Medical Potioneer, hesitating as she questions if she truly deserves such a label. Liam notices her sudden quietness and calls out her name to check on her. She admits that despite coming here to apply, she is starting to feel troubled by her own lack of confidence. Sora confesses that while she knows the theory for advanced potions, she has only ever successfully crafted low-grade ones. She looks down, feeling limited by her past experience, but a new thought begins to take root. Memories of her master surface, and she realizes the strict training was actually a lesson on how to survive as a professional. A gentle realization washes over her that the witch's harshness was a clumsy form of kindness all along. With renewed resolve, she declares that she is indeed a medical potioneer, accepting the title fully. The quill scratches finality onto the paper as the decision is locked in. She clenches her fist, silently vowing to become skilled enough to repay her master's hidden generosity. Liam breaks her train of thought, pointing to a specific line where she must sign in her own handwriting. He asks for her full name to complete the official registration process. Liam hands the pen over, preparing to guide her through the signing process. He writes her name on a scrap of paper, encouraging her to copy the shapes as if she were drawing a picture. Sora stares intensely at the example, gripping the pen with determination as she promises to try her best. She laughs nervously, sweat forming on her brow as she struggles with the unfamiliar characters. The result is a disaster, looking so garbled that Liam compares it to a squashed bug called a baboga. Sora freezes at the weird comparison, asking with dread if a baboga is some kind of gross worm. She stares at her own handwriting in horror, convinced the squiggly lines are actually moving. Confusion takes over as she looks at the mess, wondering how that ink stain counts as a signature. Liam decides it is good enough and submits the form, eager to get the paperwork over with. The receptionist accepts the messy document, asking them to wait while their guild cards are issued. She tells them to sit tight, promising to call their names as soon as the processing is complete. Liam points out the bustling quest board nearby, distracting Sora from her surprise at how easily they were accepted. He invites her to check it out while they wait, and Sora agrees with a bright, curious smile. As they approach, Sora confirms her knowledge that the board is the central hub for accepting adventurer work. They stand before the massive wall of paper, surrounded by other adventurers scanning for profitable jobs. Sora scans the overwhelming number of sheets, murmuring that there are countless requests posted. Her eyes catch a distinct difference, noting that some documents are printed on different colored paper. Liam explains the color coding system, separating the papers into specific categories like requests, quests, and others. Curious about the terminology, Sora looks up at him and asks what distinguishes a request from a quest. Liam clarifies that requests come from desperate individuals or villages needing help with specific threats like demons. Sora absorbs the information and immediately presses him for the definition of a quest. He explains that quests are issued by the guild itself to maintain supplies, such as the endless demand for medical herbs. Sora notices the quest papers are yellowed and old, realizing they are permanent fixtures that never get taken down. She nods slowly, grasping the economic structure of how the guild maintains its resources. Pointing to another section, she asks about the mismatched papers that don't fit the standard categories. Liam explains those are recruitment notices, where parties look for new members or people to join them. Sora leans in and finds a cute drawing, realizing one of the others is simply a plea for kitten adoption. Liam chuckles and agrees, confirming that section acts more like a general community message board. He watches her excitement with a soft expression, amused by her genuine interest in the mundane posting. A gentle, paternal smile crosses his face as he gazes down at her innocent curiosity. Sora catches his expression, feeling slightly patronized as she realizes he is looking at her like a naive child. Despite the embarrassment, she feels a warmth from him and internally declares that he is going to make an amazing father someday. Sora pauses at the door, turning back to Liam with a sudden idea now that the registration is done. She asks if he would be willing to accompany her to the forest to collect potion ingredients once she receives her card. Liam agrees instantly, noting that the woods are full of demons and it would be safer if he is there to protect her. He points to the request board and suggests that if they are going out, they should take a specific quest with them. Sora reads the F-rated quest details, seeing it requires collecting a medicinal herb called mumariko. Liam explains that mumariko grows everywhere in the meadow, so they can easily gather it alongside her potion ingredients. The receptionist announces that the guild cards for Sora Ono and Liam Gray are ready, prompting Sora to tease the ex-adventurer. Liam acknowledges the call and directs Sora toward the reception desk to pick them up. The receptionist guides them to the counter to finalize the issuance process. Sora marvels at the card in her hand, commenting on its strange, translucent quality. The receptionist informs them that there is a registration fee of 700 G per person, totaling 1,400 G. Sora freezes with a look of shock, realizing she forgot about the upfront cost. She quickly recovers and digs into her purse, thinking that her recent currency studies are about to pay off. With careful precision, she slides the coins onto the tray to make the payment. The receptionist waits patiently as Sora focuses intensely on getting the amount right. Sora cheers in triumph, announcing that she has paid the exact 1,400 G required. She turns to Liam with a proud grin, boasting that she handled the payment perfectly without any help. Liam reaches over and pats her head, praising her simply like a parent rewarding a child. Sora swats his hand away, pouting as she demands he stop treating her like a kid. Liam turns to the receptionist and formally requests to accept the F-rank Mumariko quest immediately. The receptionist explains that since it is a standing guild quest, there are no strict deadlines or delivery dates. She bows politely and wishes them good luck on their first assignment. Sora and Liam thank her in unison before turning to leave the guild hall. Sora pauses just outside the door, taking a deep breath as the excitement builds up inside her. She throws her arms out and shouts joyfully that they are finally going on an adventure. As they walk, she wonders aloud if she is now truly an adventurer or still just a potioneer. She turns to Liam and asks for his opinion on her new professional identity. Liam looks away and admits he doesn't really know the answer. Sora laughs it off, remarking that becoming an adventurer feels strangely like just getting a normal job. Liam chuckles softly, covering his mouth as he finds genuine amusement in her perspective. Sora stops laughing and stares at him, asking if what she said was really that funny. She gazes up at him, captivated by the rare, unguarded expression on his face. She notes softly that he has such a different look about him when he laughs. Liam gets self-conscious and asks if it is weird, but Sora quickly assures him it isn't. Sora admits she doesn't get the joke but confesses she wants to see him smile like that more often. Liam points out a forest south of Grosso where they can harvest the herbs they need. They agree to head there immediately with the goal of returning before darkness falls. Sora checks her gear and confirms that her equipment is in good order. She adds enthusiastically that they have also purchased the necessary herb-gathering tools. With preparations complete, Liam signals for them to depart on their expedition. Inside a weapon shop, their attention is drawn to a massive greatsword displayed on a rack. Sora marvels at the sheer size of the weapon, noting the blade alone is as tall as she is. Liam admits it is a great deal, but he decides against buying it for the moment. Curious about the weight, Sora asks to hold it, and Liam grants permission despite his skepticism. She insists on trying it out rather than wondering, gripping the handle with determination. Sora strains with all her might to lift the heavy steel, letting out a loud grunt of exertion. The weapon proves too heavy and she loses her grip, screaming as gravity takes over. Panicked, she cries out Liam's name as the heavy steel plummets toward the floor. In a flash, Liam's hand shoots out to catch the falling blade by the hilt. He scolds her for the reckless move, noting she almost dropped the massive sword on his foot. With casual ease, he swings the giant blade through the air to test its balance. To his surprise, Liam finds the colossal weapon to be unexpectedly light in his hands. The shopkeeper and Sora stare in silence, stunned by his casual display of raw strength. Sora mentally brands him a gorilla while the shopkeeper wishes someone like Liam would wield such a blade. The scene shifts to the forest, where the quiet sounds of nature surround them. Sora walks cheerfully, relieved to find the forest pleasant rather than scary. Liam cuts her joy short, warning that safety ends here and she must follow his lead. Ignoring her joke about him being a domineering husband, he reminds her that demons inhabit these woods. He explains that the atmosphere will grow increasingly terrifying the further they venture in. Liam notes that the demons in this specific area remain weak because it is restricted to humans. He warns that the danger level spikes ahead due to the presence of both demons and magical beasts. Sora asks for clarification, and Liam explains the key difference lies in their intelligence levels. He elaborates that while demons lack individuality, magical beasts possess both intelligence and a unique self. Sora tries to grasp the concept of monsters having individual self-consciousness. Liam contrasts this with simple demons like slimes, who are not picky and have predictable predatory instincts. He warns that some beasts are smart enough to manipulate human language and engage in tactical warfare. Reassuring her, Liam states that those clever beasts reside deep in the forest and avoid shallow areas like this. Liam asks if there are harvestable herbs nearby, but Sora admits she is unfamiliar with the local flora. She lists the specific ingredients she needs, starting with melgra. Continuing her inventory, she identifies fulnak moss as a necessary component. She concludes the list by naming the stems of ikurim and teaselgrass. Sora spots a specimen on the ground, confident they can gather a substantial amount right here. Liam verifies if these 4 species are definitely the ones she intends to collect, and she confirms with a salute. Showing him a sample, she explains that these ingredients are specifically for creating low-grade potions. Sora proudly declares herself a medical potioneer and vows to eventually craft intermediate and advanced potions too. Liam accepts this and promises to bring back intermediate materials for her to practice with if he finds any. Sora spots a specific herb called mumarico and excitedly points it out. She identifies the plant as mlunarico, admitting her knowledge is strictly limited to herbs used by medical potioneers. Holding the leaf, she explains its practical application as a hemostatic agent to stop bleeding when applied to wounds. She instructs that there is no quantity requirement, so they should simply harvest the plants whenever they spot them. Liam sets the safety protocol, ordering them to stay within visual range and store the harvest in her bag. Sora cheerfully agrees to the plan, eager to pick a bunch of herbs and head home. With the strategy set, Liam issues the command to disband and they separate to begin the harvest. Sora busies herself plucking leaves, her hands working quickly to gather the foliage. As the bag fills up, she wipes sweat from her brow, realizing the manual labor is heavier than expected. Her mind drifts back to her time at her master's house, comparing the two experiences. She recalls that medicinal herbs were cultivated there, making the harvest significantly easier than this wild foraging. Resigning herself to the task, She resolves to do her best to collect them despite the difficulty. Liam interrupts her struggle, pointing out that using her new knife would make the harvesting process much easier. Time passes as they work, with the sun hanging high over the forest canopy. Eventually, 4 large sacks sit filled to the brim, prompting Sora to celebrate their total collection. Liam doubts he can carry so many, but Sora reassures him they are light and safe since they only contain plant leaves and stems. Suddenly, Liam's demeanor shifts, and he sharply orders Sora to come to him immediately. He senses a presence, warning her that there is something dangerous here with them. Confusion colors Sora's face as the bushes near her legs begin to rustle ominously. A black beast lunges from the undergrowth, its fangs bared in a vicious attack. Reacting instantly, Liam screams Sora's name to warn her of the incoming danger. In a blur of motion, he rushes in to intercept the threat before the beast can reach her. Pulling her close into a protective embrace, Liam apologizes for the close call while the beast misses its mark. Liam requests to borrow the knife from Sora for a moment. Confused by the sudden request, Sora repeats the word borrow while staring at him blankly. The blade gleams in the light as Liam swiftly takes possession of the weapon. Sora is bewildered by how quickly he took the knife, while Liam identifies the beast as a horned diesel. He explains that while the creature isn't physically strong, a blow from its horn can be terrifying. Sora remarks that despite its dangerous nature, the beast actually has a cute face. Liam silences her with a hush, warning that there are still more enemies lurking nearby. Suddenly, 2 more horned diesels lunge from the bushes, aiming straight for Liam. Terrified by the ambush, Sora screams Liam's name in a panic. Liam moves with lightning speed, dodging the attack and countering with the knife. A sharp sound echoes through the clearing as his blade meets its targets. Sora watches in stunned silence, her eyes wide with shock at the unfolding violence. The 2 beasts collapse dead at Liam's feet, landing with a heavy thud. Sora trembles and asks Liam if he is hurt, concerned for his safety. Ignoring the question, Liam grabs another beast and notes that there is one more to deal with. He holds the creature by the neck while looking at Sora, noting that she doesn't look so good. Sora stammers, asking what they should do next regarding the creatures. The reality of the situation hits her as she realizes she might have to practice killing them. She stares at the creature, struggling with the idea of ending the life of something so small. Internally, Sora understands that killing is necessary for survival in this harsh world. However, her hesitation is palpable as she freezes, unable to bring herself to do it. She apologizes to Liam and delegates the task to him, declaring that he is in charge of the killing. Liam accepts the duty without complaint and swiftly brings the knife down to finish the job. He cleans the blade and informs Sora that the deed is done, prompting a quiet thanks from her. Sora admits she is terrible at these things and confesses she is so glad she bought him. Liam is taken aback by her words, a look of genuine surprise and warmth crossing his face. Sora wonders why he looks so happy, unaware that her reliance on him validates his purpose. Shifting to business, Liam explains that horned diesels produce good pelts and sell for a high price. He tells her he will drain the blood right there before bringing the carcasses back, causing Sora to grimace. Liam hangs the beasts to drain them while Sora averts her gaze, unable to watch the gruesome process. Sora recalls Liam mentioning that he used to be a B-rated adventurer in his past life. Witnessing his skill, she wonders if B-rated adventurers are all ridiculously strong. She marvels at his agility, noting that despite his large size, he moves faster than her eyes can follow. She had always assumed only S-rank adventurers were the coolest and strongest. Now, she realizes that even a former B-rank adventurer is absolutely amazing in his own right. Liam asks for help carrying the game, but seeing her fear of blood, he decides to carry it all himself. They begin the walk back, with Sora thinking about how incredibly reliable he is. Liam hauls their heavy gear back into town as dusk settles, prompting Sora to suggest they retreat to the inn for the night. Sora halts their progress abruptly, insisting there is something urgent they must handle before relaxing. She explains that the herbs gathered today require immediate processing, necessitating the purchase of a pot and wooden spatula. Liam apologizes for the bulky baggage while Sora directs their path toward the local tool shop. Inside the store, Liam inquires about the specific type of pot she intends to acquire. Sora requests a vessel that is lightweight and portable, emphasizing that her stay in town is only temporary. The shopkeeper intervenes with a recommendation tailored perfectly to her nomadic needs. He presents a unique metal pot that can be fully disassembled for maximum convenience and ease of transport. Sora buys the item instantly for 2,000 coins, thrilled by its utility. She adds a large wooden spatula to her purchase, prompting Liam to ask if any other tools are required. Sora considers buying a stove suitable for outdoor use to complete her brewing setup. Liam interrupts with a smirk, claiming she has no need for a stove as long as he is by her side. Sora is bewildered until Liam explains that his fire magic allows him to heat a pan directly without equipment. He confidently asserts that with his magical ability, carrying a heavy stove is a waste of effort. Sora initially rejoices at the prospect of saving money on fuel. A sudden realization dampens her mood as she grasps that without Liam, she cannot start a fire at all. The terrifying thought strikes that she is now inadvertently tethered to Liam for survival. She internally resolves to exploit his help for now but vows to buy a stove the moment they part ways. When Liam notices her distress, Sora quickly waves it off as nothing to hide her escape plans. Carrying her new equipment, Sora cheerfully leads the way back, eager to begin making potions. Liam asks if the load is heavy, but Sora assures him the disassembly feature makes it manageable. She explains how she can strap the separated parts to her backpack for effortless travel. They arrive back at the lodging, announcing their return to the residence inside. A woman inquires about the contents of the bag, and Sora reveals she has medicinal herbs for brewing. The woman deduces that Sora is a potioneer and asks for confirmation. Sora confirms with a smile that she has only just become one. The woman graciously offers the use of the fireplace in her room, provided Sora tends the fire carefully. Sora gratefully accepts the hospitality, promising to craft high-quality potions. Liam acknowledges the arrangement with a polite confirmation to the landlady. He congratulates Sora on securing the support she needs for her new profession. Sora unlocks the door to her room, ready to commence her work. Inside, Sora excitedly prepares her station, humming a happy tune about making potions. Sora raises her hands in excitement and cheerfully declares that it is time to start making potions. Liam stands ready with the supplies and eagerly asks Sora what she wants him to do next. Sora freezes as she realizes she has nothing in particular for him to do, causing a shock effect. Liam looks visibly devastated and disappointed that his assistance might not be needed. Sora quickly improvises and asks him to get a pot of water from the innkeeper, filled about 8/10 full. His face lights up with happiness at being useful, and he immediately dashes off to complete the task. Alone in the room, Sora holds up a cloth and considers her first move. She decides to set up a cooking table specifically for chopping the medicinal herbs. As she struggles to drag the heavy table across the floor, Liam suddenly returns and calls her name. Seeing her effort, he immediately steps in and offers to do the heavy lifting for her. He lifts the table with ease and asks where to place it, to which Sora points out a spot. Liam sets the table down gently on the wooden floor. Sora observes him and thinks he resembles a loyal doggy waiting for instructions, then asks for the next task. She asks if he would sort out the medicinal herbs since she got them all mixed up. Liam happily agrees and thanks her for the opportunity to help. Sora watches him work and thinks to herself that he is simply too nice. Her mind wanders to his nightly activities, and she wishes he didn't have to masturbate so loudly. She quickly shakes her head to dismiss the lewd thought and focus on the present. Refocusing on the potion, she asks Liam to hand her a batch of teasel grass. He promptly hands over the bag of herbs, and she thanks him. Sora explains that teasel grass increases medicinal potency significantly but requires specific handling. She decides to use a large quantity and notes it must be soaked in water before heating. After adding the herbs to the pot, she inspects the mixture and decides it looks about right. She turns to Liam and requests some fulmok moss from the supplies. He hands her the requested item, and she accepts it with a thank you. Sora examines the moss, noting that the roots must be meticulously removed before use. She explains that the slimy root substance won't dissolve and creates an oily layer. Despite the hassle, she notes that the root lotion actually contains the most nourishing ingredients. She rubs her eyes, which are becoming tired from the fine work of separating the roots. Deciding she has processed enough, she brushes the pile of moss aside. She calls out to Liam again and asks him to pass her some akurim. He hands it over, and she thanks him for his continual assistance. Looking at the akurim flower, she notes that she needs to chop its stems. She begins cutting and remarks that the knife Liam picked out for her works very well. The hollow stems make a pleasant sound as she cuts them, reminding her of chopping green onions. She finishes chopping the pile and concludes that it is the right quantity. Carrying the heavy pot to the fireplace, she calls Liam's name. She asks if he can light the fire for her since she needs heat. Liam agrees immediately and moves to the fireplace. Sora instructs him to set the fire to about medium heat under the pot. She opens the window with a click and shouts for him to do it with a wham. Since the window is open, she encourages him to light it up with a bang. Liam looks slightly confused and confirms that she still wants a medium fire as previously stated. With a focused expression, he points his finger and declares he will light it. Sora stares intently at Liam, eagerly anticipating a display of magic as he prepares to light the fire. She excitedly wonders if he will perform a dramatic, Chunibuish spell incantation to cast the flame. Thrilled by the prospect, she waits to witness genuine spell chanting for the very first time. Liam stands silently with a focused expression, completely ignoring her expectation for a theatrical performance. A fire ignites instantly without a word, leaving Sora shocked that he skipped the chanting entirely. Disappointed, she confronts him and demands to know why he didn't say any cool, dramatic lines. Sora insists that magic requires saying something embarrassing to set the mood. Liam explains he doesn't need to chant for such a small fire, correcting her misunderstanding of what chanting actually is. He warns that if he were to chant, the resulting firepower would blow out every window in the room. Terrified by the destruction he describes, Sora immediately thanks him for staying silent. Liam clarifies that his immense magic power makes scaling down difficult, so large-scale spells are the only ones requiring chants. Sora notices the flame beneath the pot is black and asks about its unusual color. Liam nonchalantly replies that his fire magic has always been black, unaware of any significance. He confirms the current heat is set to a medium fire and asks Sora if that suffices. Sora instructs him to help remove the teasel grass from the pot before the mixture boils. The liquid inside the pot bubbles as the ingredients begin to react to the heat. Sora successfully fishes out the grass with her tool, announcing that the step is complete. Liam observes that the water has turned green as Sora presents the result. Moving to the next step, Sora directs the addition of Melgra into the brewing concoction. She watches the pot closely, waiting for specific bubbles to form on the surface. Once the liquid reaches the right state, she carefully drops in pieces of fulmok moss. Sora stirs the mixture steadily, confirming with a smile that the process is moving along smoothly. The potion thickens and swirls in the pot as the ingredients blend together under the heat. As the temperature rises, Sora begins to sweat profusely despite her focus. She calls out to Liam, complaining that it is getting too hot even though her robe offers heat protection. Needing relief, she asks him to lower the temperature of the magical flame. Liam asks how much she wants it lowered, suggesting a shift to a slow fire. Sora quickly agrees to the adjustment, relieved to have the heat reduced. To adjust the magic, Liam leans in close behind her and whispers that he is switching to a slow fire. Sora freezes, suddenly realizing how dangerously close he is to her. She finds herself trapped in an accidental hug from behind as Liam reaches around her to control the fire. Flustered and blushing, Sora panics internally at the intimate and unexpected position. Sora feels a sudden spike of nervousness as Liam's presence looms large behind her. She flinches as he reaches around, his arm brushing hers to adjust the flames beneath the pot. Liam casually asks if the heat is too intense, but Sora stammers a denial while her heart races. He warns her that using the magical fire as a mere lighter is dangerous and will result in burns. Sora realizes that his magical origin is the reason he removed the standard firewood earlier. Liam fine-tunes the black flames and asks if the current level is sufficient for her work. Sora falls silent, her mind drifting as she watches the fire obey his will. Noticing her hesitation, Liam asks what is wrong, though Sora claims it is just the novelty of the process. She awkwardly asks if he would like to try mixing the potion in a circular motion. Liam recoils in shock, refusing instantly because his interference would ruin the potion. He states firmly that he is completely unsuitable for the task and cannot participate. Realizing Sora is ignorant of the mechanics, he offers to explain the fundamental rules of magic. Sora eagerly accepts the lesson, asking him to proceed with the explanation. Liam settles in and asks if she even knows what types of magic exist in their world. He lists the 5 primary elements: fire, water, wind, earth, and lightning. He notes that dark and poison exist but dismisses them for now as they are anomalies. Liam explains that the decisive factor in using any of these magics is one's inherent aptitude. He adds that most people only possess an aptitude for 1 or 2 specific elements. Liam reveals his own specialties are fire and lightning magic. Sora notes the limited number of types, prompting Liam to mention that wind and darkness are also useful. She absorbs this information, pondering the utility of the different magical affinities. Lost in thought, Sora wonders what her own aptitude is and wishes aloud that she could use magic. She laments her lack of coolness, fantasizing about casting spells like he does. Liam bluntly crushes her dreams by stating clearly that she cannot use magic at all. Sora is stunned as he confirms she possesses absolutely no aptitude for spellcasting. The shock causes her to drop the wooden spatula, which clatters loudly against the rim. Desperate, she argues that she must be good at something, assuming everyone has a talent. She demands to know why magic is out of her reach, clutching her head in distress. Liam explains that her inability to use magic is exactly because she has the aptitude for potions. He clarifies that the aptitude for potion making is created by the total lack of magic aptitude. Sora is baffled by this logic, struggling to understand how a deficit creates a talent. Disappointed, she pulls her hood down to hide her face, wishing she could have had magic too. Liam calls out to her gently, seeing her visible dejection. He asks if she understands why potioneers are so scarce in their world. Liam tells her she is a precious commodity because so few people have the aptitude to make potions. Sora's eyes sparkle with renewed hope as she asks if she is incredibly rare and valuable. Liam bluntly shuts her down again, saying she isn't that rare, crushing her ego instantly. She complains about the lack of a reincarnation bonus or cheat ability, feeling cheated by fate. Liam corrects her, noting that potion making technically requires a form of magic, just not the spellcasting kind. He asks if she remembers the magic stone used to heat the shower water. Sora recalls the stone, noting that the water pressure was disappointing. Liam explains that high-purity potions made by those with good magical power are highly prized and scarce. However, he concludes that the amount she produces is small and not particularly rare, leaving Sora utterly disappointed again. Sora stands dejected while Liam watches, as she finally grasps the bitter nature of her situation. She explains that she can craft high-quality medicine, but only in exchange for a complete inability to use standard magic. Furious at the trade-off, she calls her ability half-baked trash, and wonders why she got such a raw deal. She bemoans her good fortune as being woefully incomplete and unsatisfying. Flailing her arms, she compares her life to winning a broken toy or an unwanted third prize in a lottery. Sora screams that the result is just dull compared to her expectations, though Liam insists it isn't bad at all. Calming down, she realizes her herbalist skills allow her to make potions here, finding a silver lining. Liam flashes a blindingly handsome smile and agrees that she is absolutely right. Sora is physically struck by the Eichmann power of his smile, shielding her eyes from the glare. A sudden bubbling noise from the pot interrupts the moment, snapping her back to reality. Realizing she neglected the brew, Sora panics and yells that she forgot to check the pot. She rushes over and is relieved to see that the potion will be ready in just a second. Sora reaches into her bag and pulls out a small item, preparing for the final step. Liam asks what she is holding, and she reveals it is a magic stone used for finishing touches. She explains that she brought it from her master's house to stabilize the potion's magical power. Sora confidently predicts that this addition will turn the brew into a high-quality potion. She carefully stirs the mixture, her expression focused as the liquid swirls in the pot. Liam observes her skill and remarks that the aptitude for potion making is something splendid. He points out how skillfully she added the stone, suggesting she is using magic power unknowingly. Liam clarifies that her skill is simply a different type of magic than shooting fire or lightning. Sora realizes that without her specific aptitude, the mixture would just be hot water and herbs. A smile breaks across her face as she accepts that she possesses a unique, potion-making magic. Tears form in her eyes as she celebrates the fact that she is not useless after all. Liam smiles warmly, silently supporting her newfound confidence and relief. Sora checks the pot one last time, confirming that the thickness has been removed. The liquid in the pot settles, clear and perfect, marking the end of the brewing process. Sora turns to Liam with a bright smile and announces that the potion is finally done. She decides to let it cool down and slumps to the floor, exhausted from the work. Declaring it break time, she rubs her stomach and complains that she is starving. Sora asks Liam to bring another chair so they can sit and eat together. She places jars of preserved food on the table, preparing their humble meal. Liam sits down and accepts the portable soup without complaint, telling her it is fine by him. Sora playfully offers a rhyming prayer of thanks to the food before digging into her meal. Liam interrupts the moment to ask how she plans to bottle the potion once it cools down. Chuckling mischievously, Sora reveals that she hasn't bought any official containers for personal use yet. She holds up a large glass jar, reasoning that any glass vessel should be sufficient for storage. Liam realizes she has been washing and hoarding these jars specifically for this purpose. He notes they are too bulky for convenient use but agrees to use them just this once. Sora asks if they should sell the potions at a second-hand shop, but Liam corrects her immediately. He explains that selling potions is strictly regulated and permitted only through the guild. Sora realizes the guild must manage distribution to ensure quality since potions are ingested. She connects the dots, horrified to realize her grandmother had been selling potions illegally to villagers. Determined to avoid that path, she vows to properly obey the law this time. Liam agrees to handle the heavy lifting and take the batch to the guild the next day. Sora worries about the weight of the massive batch, but Liam remains unconcerned. He assures her calmly that carrying such a load is no issue for him at all. Sora mentally notes that she shouldn't forget about his monstrous gorilla strength. At the guild, the receptionist calls out Sora's name to present the appraisal results. The staff member reviews the budget and prepares to share the detailed breakdown. They confirm the submission includes low-grade potions and various monster parts like pelts and tusks. Sora and Liam are stunned when the total payout is announced as 148,400 G. The receptionist asks if the amount is acceptable, leaving Sora completely flabbergasted. Snapping out of her shock, Sora eagerly accepts the payment with a loud confirmation. The duo walks away, their boots clacking against the pavement as they leave the guild. Outside, Sora takes a deep, refreshing breath of the city air. She celebrates her victory, cheering that she has finally earned income by herself. Holding the money bag, she shows it to Liam, amazed by the amount despite not understanding the economy. Liam explains that compared to an F-rank adventurer's daily wage of 15,000 G, this is an incredible sum. Sora beams with happiness, delighted by the confirmation of her success. She hugs the money bag tight, giggling uncontrollably over her first real salary. Her face rubs against the bag in pure bliss as she savors the moment. Liam warns her to quiet down because people are staring, but she continues to cheer internally. Deciding to celebrate, Sora declares that they will splurge on a real meal instead of portable soup. Liam agrees to the plan and asks her what she wants to eat. She guides him through the streets, pointing out a location near a flower shop. They arrive at the restaurant recommended to them by the guild staff. Liam confirms this is the right place and they prepare to enter. A catgirl waitress welcomes them warmly at the door. Sora admires the waitress's cute tail as they are led to a table inside. The waitress hands them menus and tells them to take their time deciding. She asks Liam for his order and then turns to address Sora as a married woman. Liam asks for a moment as he is still deciding on his order. The waitress repeats the title, Madam, confusing Sora. Sora slams the table in protest, shouting that she is not a married woman. Liam calmly remarks that she lacks the characteristic sex appeal of a married woman anyway. Offended, Sora challenges him, insisting she has sex appeal and asking if he wants to see it. Sora confidently brushes her hair back, challenging Liam not to underestimate the potency of her girl power. Liam stares blankly, asking with genuine confusion what exactly she intends to show him. With a sharp slap to her thigh, Sora declares she is about to demonstrate her sex appeal. She boldly hikes up her robe and wiggles her bare leg, demanding he look at it. A wolf beastkin at the next table whistles appreciatively, leaving Liam completely stunned. Sora smugly asks Liam if he finally acknowledges her sex appeal, oblivious to the public attention. Liam panic scolds her, reminding her they are in the middle of a public store. The wolf beastkin compliments her, calling out, "Nice sister," from his table. Liam freezes in shock at the unwanted attention Sora is attracting. Sora persists, insisting that Liam retract his previous claim that she lacks sex appeal. Defeated, Liam loudly admits she has sex appeal just to get her to cover her leg up. Satisfied with his admission, Sora settles back down into her seat. Liam glares intensely at the leering wolf beastkin, physically blocking his line of sight to Sora. The beastkin whistles nonchalantly and looks away, backing down under Liam's protective gaze. Turning back to the table, Liam asks Sora what she plans to order for their meal. Sora freezes as she realizes she cannot read a single character on the menu. She desperately asks if this world has cheese while Liam prompts her for a specific dish. Sora slams the menu down and demands to eat absolutely anything that contains cheese. Liam smiles and begins scanning the menu to fulfill her specific request. He reads out options including morel mushrooms in grated cheese and a cheese omelette. Their order arrives, featuring a sizzling rock-barred steak that looks incredibly delicious. The server warns them that the plates are scorching hot as they are placed on the table. They wish each other a good meal and prepare to dig in. Steam rises from the hot food as they begin to eat. Sora scoops up a large spoonful of the cheesy dish and puts it in her mouth. Her eyes widen and her face flushes with pure culinary ecstasy as she chews. She squeals in delight, overwhelmed by the delicious flavor. Sora wonders if the long absence of cheese in her life is making it taste even better. Curious about Liam's meal, she asks him what kind of meat he ordered. Liam excitedly offers to let her taste his steak since she seems interested. Sora instinctively closes her eyes and opens her mouth wide for him to feed her. Liam freezes mid-motion, blushing furiously as he realizes the intimacy of the situation. Liam trembles with the fork in his hand, paralyzed by the realization that he actually has to feed her. Sora leans in with sparkling eyes, urging him to hurry up and just do it for her. His hand shakes uncontrollably as he brings the utensil closer to her waiting face. Sora closes her eyes and clamps her mouth down on the meat. She gulps the food down in one smooth motion. She savors the bite, swallowing with visible satisfaction. A massive blush spreads across her face as she squeals about how tasty it is. Liam watches her reaction in silence, his own face heating up. He softly murmurs her name, looking away in embarrassment. Sora suddenly panics and covers her cheeks, offering to retract her earlier complaint about him, saying she has no sex appeal. Liam interrupts to bluntly state that Sora actually has a big appeal, leaving her stunned. Sora huffs and turns away, pouting that it's fine if he finally understood. Desperate to change the subject, Liam stammers about ordering drinks or eating something else. The Wolfman interjects, suggesting they order alcohol and telling them to get whatever they like. 6 hours fade away in the blink of an eye. Silence dominates the scene as a gaping, dark hole appears in the forest floor. Liam lies battered at the bottom, thinking his comment about her big appeal pales in comparison to the gravity of his current state. Sora peers down from the darkness, sighing about how they ended up in this situation. She berates herself for greedily searching for medicinal herbs right after such a nice meal. She rolls around in frustration, cursing that she fell into a hole. She admits her stupidity for failing to notice the cliff edge in the dark. Liam's voice echoes from the bottom, calling out her name. Sora frantically asks if he is injured, and he admits he hit his leg during the fall. She demands to see the injury immediately, but he winces in pain. Liam decides to light a fire since the darkness makes it impossible to examine the wound. A magical flame ignites in his palm, illuminating his stoic face. He flinches sharply as Sora touches the injured area. Sora gasps in shock, noting that the leg is badly swollen. She frantically recalls the potion they brewed yesterday. Realization strikes her like a lightning bolt. She is an idiot and they sold the entire stock. Liam asks if she is hurt, but she apologizes profusely, blaming herself for his condition. She smiles gently, revealing that she is uninjured because he protected her during the fall. Liam resolves to go call for help and tells her to wait there. Sora looks up at the towering walls and declares jumping out to be impossible. She assesses the height and concludes that even he cannot climb it. Despair sets in as she wonders what they are supposed to do now. She questions if their only option is to wait for rescue. A shiver runs through her body as the cold begins to bite. Night has fully set in, dropping the temperature and forcing Sora to realize she must act. She trembles violently, finding her insulation mantle insufficient against the freezing air. Liam pats his lap and invites her to sit on his legs to share warmth. He claims he is strong against the cold and will be fine, urging her to accept the offer. Sora stares at him, dumbfounded by the suggestion to sit on his lap. Sora suggests sitting on top of his legs to conserve body heat. Liam is baffled, asking for clarification on exactly how she intends to sit on his thighs. He sits against the earthen wall, repeating the word, riding, with a mix of confusion and anticipation. Sora hesitantly straddles his legs to demonstrate the position, asking if this is what he meant. Liam stares intently at her face and confirms that is indeed the position. As she leans in closer, Sora murmurs that she will proceed this way. Suddenly flustered by the intimacy, she pulls back and shouts that she cannot go through with it because it is too close. Liam agrees to stop the awkward experiment, suggesting they focus on finding a way to escape instead. He comes up with a new plan, proposing to lift her out of the hole using wind magic. Sora is impressed and asks if he is actually capable of such a feat. Liam begins the incantation, calling upon the breath of the clear sky and the spirits of the wind. A vortex of air swirls around Sora's feet, lifting the leaves from the ground. Sora's hair floats upwards as the magical energy envelopes her, lifting her weightless body. She rises into the air, exclaiming in amazement as she hovers above the ground. Reaching toward the opening above, she shouts for him to send her up. Liam strains visibly, sweat pouring down his face as he struggles to maintain the spell. His concentration breaks and he gasps out that he cannot hold it any longer. The magic dissipates instantly, sending Sora plummeting back down with a yelp. She crashes into the pile of leaves at the bottom, apologizing for the failure while Liam looks on helplessly. Liam explains that unlike his proficiency with fire, wind magic is not his forte. Sora accepts the outcome gracefully, thanking him for trying his best regardless. Liam predicts someone will pass by tomorrow evening, noting that they cannot climb out with her swollen ankle. He notices her shivering and asks if she is cold, realizing they must survive the night here. Liam decides to strengthen the magical fire to provide more warmth for them. Sora interrupts, worried that depleting his magical power will prevent his body from recovering. Liam claims he can endure the cold and will only maintain a minimum flame for light. Sora trembles violently, tears forming in her eyes as she declares she absolutely cannot handle the freezing cold. She silently crawls between his legs, unable to bear the temperature any longer. Liam wraps his arms around her from behind, asking if she is still cold as they huddle together. Sora relaxes into his embrace, murmuring that his back is quite warm and she is fine now. She thinks to herself that waiting for morning in this position should be bearable. As her breathing slows, Liam holds her close and quietly accepts the long night ahead. Sora stiffens on his lap, raising a hand as she senses something amiss. She bluntly asks the gentleman if his thing is pressing right against her. Liam apologizes as a sudden physical reaction jolts through him, causing Sora to scream in panic. Breathing heavily, he excuses himself by saying he didn't let it out yesterday, prompting Sora to ask if he can't hold it for just one night. Sora freezes as the realization dawns on her that he hasn't had release. She remembers they stayed up all night making potions, leaving him no private time. Panicked, she wonders what on earth she is supposed to do about his condition. Her face erupts in a blush as the heat of the situation overwhelms her. Sweat beads on her skin as she feels the intensity of the moment rising. Liam fidgets restlessly, burying his face near her neck and groaning her name. He pants and desperately pleads with her not to move down there. Sora shrieks that his request is absolutely impossible given the circumstances. Liam warns her gravely that if she moves now, it will become a serious issue. Sora tries to stand up to escape, but Liam refuses to let her go. Flushed and desperate, he begs her to just stay quietly sitting on top of him. Sora argues that the situation is dangerous and she wants to get far away from him. Despite her protests, he tightens his embrace and refuses to let go. He confesses that he can barely hold himself back any longer. Sora stares in shock, realizing she might be forced to endure this predicament. A sudden, hard pressure against her leaves her speechless. She demands to know if he is truly unable to control himself. His hand slides boldly onto her exposed thigh, making her flinch. She slaps his hand away, scolding him for playing with her thigh in such a crisis. Panting heavily, Liam marvels at how incredibly soft her thigh feels. He squeezes her hand tightly, causing Sora to complain that he is hurting her while massaging her limbs. Liam gazes at her with ecstatic eyes, claiming his head is burning from her smooth body, while Sora snaps at him to stop looking at her like that. He squeezes her hand again, silently communicating his overwhelming urge. Sora finally snaps and yells that she will allow it, commanding him to just let it out. Liam looks at her with wide, flushed eyes, asking tentatively if it is really okay. The page teases a crisis for Sora's virtue as she faces a perilous situation with her companion. Liam asks with a flushed face if he can relieve himself right here and now. He clarifies that he intends to masturbate while they remain huddled together for warmth. Sora argues that he should release her so she can hide in a corner and not watch. Liam refuses to let go, insisting that she stays put while he handles his business. Frustrated by the situation, he curses under his breath as his control slips. Sora gasps in shock as she feels a sudden rhythmic movement against her back. She panics and shouts that this level of contact is not what she agreed to. Liam's body slides against hers, the friction intensifying as he loses restraint. He urgently warns her that he is already close because he abstained yesterday. Sora asks in disbelief if he is actually kidding about the timing. A sudden impact shakes them as Liam reaches his limit against her. The cave fills with the sound of his ragged breathing in the silence. Liam stammers that he is releasing, unable to hold back any longer. Sora lets out a distressed cry as she feels the warm wetness on her clothes. She freezes in horror, unable to believe the reality of the situation. Liam pants heavily against her neck while Sora sits paralyzed by the mess. She trembles with rage, thinking that this guy is absolutely unbelievable. Sora screams at him for using her buttocks as a masturbation aid. Liam continues to breathe hard, offering no apology for his actions. Sora feels the liquid oozing and asks in terror if he is still going. She complains that her bottom is soaked, while Liam blames his prodigious Oni stamina. Desperate to escape, Sora asks if it is finally over so she can move away. Liam's hand suddenly clamps down on her wrist to stop her from leaving. He stares at her with a lingering heat, calling her name softly. To Sora's absolute shock, Liam asks if they can do it all over again. She stares at him in disbelief as he shamelessly requests a second round. Sora asks if he is insane to suggest doing it again in this situation. She closes her eyes and falls silent, resigning herself to the madness. With a heavy sigh, she tells him she understands and accepts his demand. Sora offers to use her hand this time, hoping it will make him finish faster. She admits she doesn't know the technique, leaving Liam stunned by her offer. Sora suggests that since he is a man, the process would end much faster if he used a woman's hand. Liam pauses to ask her to wait a moment and teach him exactly what he needs to do. He looks at her with intensity, questioning if she even understands what that implies. Sora retorts that she is not that pure and innocent, reminding him of the years she spent as a slave. She clarifies that while she knows of it, she does not actually know the specific details. Liam accepts her explanation with a flushed face, murmuring that he understands. Internally, Liam wonders why Sora does not simply order him to control his urges. He reflects that if he were to go against an order, the slave mark's branding would stop him from breathing. He realizes that giving an order might kill him before he hurts her, but acting rashly without one will lead to him pinning her down. He thinks Sora is far too kind, while she complains that the situation is becoming messy and wet. Liam marvels at her nature, noting he has never seen a human try to be equals with a bought slave before. His control begins to slip as he admits to himself that the situation is becoming bad. His reasoning burns away as he becomes overwhelmed by how nice she smells. He pants heavily, resolving that if there is no command stopping him, he is free to act. Desperate to end the torment quickly, he decides to voice his true desires. Liam tells Sora she can choose how to do it and asks her to please touch him. Sora accepts the request with a determined expression, confirming she understands. She reaches out her hand, asking where exactly he wants to be touched. Liam admits that just the sensation of her touching him anywhere feels good. She touches his chest, causing him to flinch violently at the contact. Liam gasps, reacting intensely to the specific spot she found. Sora notices his reaction and teases him, noting that he seems to be enjoying this. She continues to explore his sensitivity, ignoring his weak attempts to deny the pleasure. Sora points out that he is feeling it a lot despite his verbal protests. She suddenly stops her teasing, realizing her way of speaking sounds like a perverted old aristocrat. Liam throws his head back, letting out a ragged breath of ecstasy. Sora observes his reaction, noting that Liam appears to have sensitive nipples. A massive bulge strains against the fabric of his clothes, making its presence undeniably known. Sora calls out to him nervously to get his attention. Liam asks if he should take it out, leaving Sora flushed and stammering in shock. The object springs free with a bounce, leaving Sora staring in wide-eyed disbelief. She stares blankly at the appendage, trying to process what she is seeing. A realization hits her like a truck. The thing is absolutely huge. She panics, thinking this size is no joke and questioning the proportionality of male anatomy. Terrified, she concludes that it is physically impossible for such a menacing thing to fit inside a female. Liam asks hesitantly if it is still okay for her to touch it. He confirms with a strained expression that he wants her to proceed. Seeing her hesitation, he gently tells her not to force herself if she can't do it. Sora steals her resolve, declaring that she will touch it and that it is okay. She tells herself that giving up now would be a stain on her honor as a woman. Her hand moves in, making contact and beginning to caress the exposed length. She utters a nervous sound as she grips him. Liam gasps sharply, warning her to be careful as he nears his limit. A sudden release catches Sora off guard as Liam apologizes for losing control. A wet, heavy sound echoes in the cave as Liam finally reaches his release. Sora recoils in horror, trembling as she processes the sheer volume of the mess while Liam sits dazed. Liam exhales a long, shuddering breath, murmuring that the sensation feels incredibly good. A heavy silence falls over them, broken only by the sound of their ragged breathing. Sora stares at her hand in disbelief, realizing that the fluids are continuously flowing without stopping. She shrieks as the liquid splashes onto her robe, horrified by the expanding mess. Liam continues to pant heavily, his face flushed and sweat dripping down his skin. He awkwardly apologizes to Sora, hesitantly asking if she thinks the ordeal is over. To her absolute horror, Liam turns with a lust-filled gaze and asks if they can go once more. Sora screams in disbelief, asking if he is serious, but Liam responds by squeezing her hand tightly. She freezes as she feels the strength of his grip, realizing he is far from satisfied. Liam breathes hot against her neck, urging her to continue despite her protests. Exasperated, Sora demands to know exactly how many times he needs to finish before he is done. Liam admits he doesn't know the limit of his own endurance, leaving Sora completely hopeless. Internally, Sora realizes the situation has turned critical and is spiraling out of control. She notes that Liam's lusty expression is dangerous, signaling that he has lost all restraint. Overwhelmed by the madness, she seriously considers abandoning him right there in the cave. Another wave of release hits, accompanied by wet sounds as Liam finds relief again. Sora stares blankly at her hands, noting that the amount is just as huge as the first time. Liam calls out her name weakly, his voice thick with unslaked desire. He admits it is still not enough and shamelessly asks her to help him one more time. Defeated by his stamina, Sora sighs and agrees to see this through to the very end. Liam instructs her to grip it more firmly this time, guiding her hand for the next round. Sora complies with a deadpan expression, accepting her role in this endless night. Her hand wraps tightly around him, slick with fluids as she prepares to work. Liam gasps and throws his head back, overwhelmed by the sensation of her firmer grip. She applies pressure as requested, moving her hand with mechanical precision. Liam's breath hitches and his eyes lose focus as the pleasure builds rapidly. He tilts his head back, unable to hold back the moans escaping his lips. Straining against the edge, Liam stammers that he is coming yet again. A sudden splash hits Sora's face, causing her to flinch as he releases with explosive force. Liam pants heavily, asking if he was too rough while Sora wipes the mess from her cheek. Sora smiles with a mischievous glint, admitting she isn't actually sorry for what she did. Liam blushes deeply and begs for one more round, causing Sora to scream in disbelief. A quiet gasp echoes against the cold stone walls of the pit. The sound of rustling leaves fills the heavy silence of the night. A soft moan escapes from the darkness as the intimacy deepens. The discarded water flask lies forgotten on the forest floor. Liam looks up with hazy eyes and whispers Sora's name. Sora complains about the sticky residue while Liam thanks her profusely. She asks him to pour water from the fallen bottle to wash her hands. Clear water splashes over their skin as they cleanse themselves. Liam apologizes for making a mess on her face and mantle. He hands her a cloth and urges her to use it for cleaning. Sora hesitates, noting that they are running out of clean clothes. She relents and takes the cloth, deciding it is fine to use. Silence falls between them as she dries herself off. Liam breaks the quiet to ask if she is physically all right. Sora teases him, noting he looks refreshed after releasing 6 times. Liam notices her wet pants and asks if they need to dry them off. He flushes, realizing that wiping alone won't be enough to clean it. A freezing gust of wind sweeps through the hole, chilling them to the bone. Liam's eyelids droop as he asks if she is getting tired. He collapses abruptly, his head landing heavily on her lap. The cold continues to permeate the air around them. Sora shrieks as he wraps his arms tight around her waist. She yells in disbelief that he plans to sleep in that position. Realizing he is out cold, she gives up and accepts her fate. She admits the warmth is pleasant and decides to stay huddled together. Her hand gently strokes his hair as he drifts into a deep sleep. She stares blankly, thinking that the experience was far more intense than expected. She admits she didn't hate it but was overwhelmed by his sheer excitement. The intensity of his need scares her as she realizes how much he held back. Her heart pounds as she fears Liam might develop one-sided feelings. She frantically shakes her head, denying the possibility with all her might. A somber expression crosses her face as the thought lingers. She gazes at his sleeping face, wondering if it was just his own instincts. She questions if he only did it because she happened to be the one there. She forces herself to stop overthinking and focus on escaping tomorrow. The sun rises, casting a pale light over the cracked walls of the pit. Sora wakes up with a sigh, hoping the awkwardness will fade with the morning. Birds sing cheerfully in the trees high above their prison. A silhouette appears at the edge of the hole, calling out to them. Sora freezes, her eyes widening as she registers the voice. She jumps up and screams that there are people down here. She shakes Liam violently, yelling that rescue has finally arrived. Sora and Liam spot a glimmer of hope for salvation after their fall into the deep hole. 3 figures appear at the rim, asking if the pair below have fallen in. They ask if climbing out is impossible, and Liam confirms their predicament from the bottom. Sora quickly explains that escape is impossible because Liam has sprained his ankle. The strangers offer to pull them out with a rope, telling them to wait a moment. Sora is stunned by the offer, hopeful that their ordeal is finally ending. One rescuer squints down, feeling a sudden spark of recognition regarding the pair. He realizes with a start that these are the same kids they encountered recently. The memory clicks into place, revealing a dangerous connection between them. He identifies them as the mob who threw rocks at Liam just the other day. Terror strikes the group as they realize Liam is the powerful Oni they antagonized. Liam stares up silently, his expression unreadable as his identity is revealed to them. The group hesitates, debating whether they should actually help their former enemy. Tension fills the silence as Sora and Liam await their judgment from above. They decide to help regardless of their personal feelings, refusing to abandon them. One asks if being stuck is truly a problem, and Sora confirms the urgency. She stares up with wide eyes, admitting that their situation is absolutely critical. Sora emphasizes that Liam is trapped and cannot climb out on his own. The rescuer assesses the height, realizing the physical difficulty of the task ahead. He declares that leaving them would be inhumane, cementing their decision to help. Sora is moved by their unexpected kindness, her eyes shining with relief. Turning to Liam, she excitedly announces that they are going to be saved. Liam prepares himself as the rescuer announces he is throwing the rope down. The rope drops into the darkness, landing within their reach at the bottom. The rescuers shout that the anchor is secure, having tied the rope to a tree. They call down to ask who will be the first to make the climb. Liam volunteers Sora immediately, insisting he will tie the rope around her. He secures the knot tightly around her waist, ensuring she is safe for the lift. The team above grips the rope, announcing they are ready to heave her up. Liam guides Sora to the wall as the rope goes taut and lifts her. She grips the rope with both hands, confirming she is ready for the ascent. Sora clears the edge of the cliff, and the rescuers celebrate their first success. They untie her and prepare for the harder task, hoping they can lift the heavy Oni. Sora looks back at the edge, a sudden dark thought crossing her mind. Liam waits patiently in the pit, unaware of the internal conflict occurring above. Sora realizes that abandoning him now would be the perfect opportunity to escape his lust. She starts to sneak away quietly while the rescuers are focused on the rope. The men catch her trying to flee and scream at her for abandoning her servant. Sora internally justifies her flight, terrified she can no longer match Liam's insatiable desire. They shout at her to come back, insisting that pulling him up takes priority over running. The rope drags heavily against the earth as the weight proves immense. The 3 rescuers strain and sweat, realizing their combined strength isn't enough. Sora freezes as she hears their struggle, torn between freedom and guilt. She looks back, her expression tightening as she makes her final choice. Sora rushes back and grabs the rope, lending her strength to the effort. The leader shouts for her to pull hard as she digs her heels in. Grunting with exertion, Sora pulls with everything she has to save him. Liam is finally hauled over the edge, sliding onto the grass to safety. A heavy boot slams onto the forest floor, digging into the earth for traction. A voice cries out in triumph, celebrating that they have successfully pulled him out of the pit. Liam sits heavily on the ground, panting for breath as he thanks his rescuers for their help. Sora looks at the young man with wide eyes, noting with surprise that he didn't run away. Liam blinks in confusion, asking what on earth she means by running away. He scoffs at the accusation, declaring he would never flee and leave his servant behind. Sora quickly intervenes to calm him down, telling him to relax before he gets angry. The boy scratches his cheek awkwardly, admitting he was running away but couldn't leave an injured person. He glances around the dense forest, adding that escaping from here now would be impossible anyway. Sora thanks them for the save, weirdly addressing the trio as Shoemaker 1 ABC Brothers. The boy protests the strange nickname, clarifying they are neither shoemakers nor named ABC. He explains they saw the bag of herbs and tools near the cliff and realized someone had fallen. Sora stares at him intently, asking point-blank why they decided to help them. She probes further, asking if they don't hate Liam and viewing him as an Oni monster. The boy looks down with a pained expression, admitting that they deeply regret their past behavior. He explains that helping now makes them glad because they were the ones who hurt him before. Sora softens as she understands the sincerity of their regret and the situation. She beams with a sudden idea, offering to give them a thank you potion as a reward. She instructs them to come to the inn that evening to collect it, and the boys happily agree. One boy looks confused, asking if she really intends to brew a potion right after this ordeal. Sora laughs off the concern, explaining she is just using leftovers from the potion meant for Liam's injury. The boys agree to the plan, even as Sora assures them they don't have to if it's too much trouble. She turns to Liam, asking if he is okay with these kids coming to their inn. Liam pauses for a moment, considering the request with a calm expression. He smiles gently, stating that thanking a benefactor is the proper and good thing to do. Sora looks him over anxiously, asking if he is hurt or in pain anywhere. Liam dismisses the worry, claiming his stomach is rumbling and suggesting they hurry back. Sora looks at him skeptically, questioning how they can possibly return given his condition. Liam fashions a makeshift cane from a branch, insisting it is enough to get him back to the inn. Sora suddenly freezes, remembering that they were technically in the middle of a collecting quest. She tells the boys they are staying at the Dancing Sea Eagle and apologizes for taking up their time. The group waves goodbye as they part ways, promising to meet again that evening. Sora and Liam stand together in the quiet forest, watching their rescuers disappear into the trees. The story continues following Liam and Sora as they finally return to town after their ordeal. Sora beams with joy while walking beside Liam, who relies on a makeshift crutch to support his injured leg. As they walk through the streets, Sora expresses her immense relief that they have returned safely. She turns to Liam and asks if they can make a quick stop at a secondhand shop before going home. Liam agrees readily when Sora explains that she intends to buy bottles to fill with potions. They enter the shop and are immediately greeted by the shopkeeper at the entrance. The merchant directs them to a basket in the corner when Sora asks for cheap bottles suitable for potions. Sora inspects a round glass flask, noting that both the size and the price are perfect for her needs. The shopkeeper is shocked when she abruptly orders 200 units of the item. He asks if she is opening a shop due to the volume, but she vaguely dismisses the idea while collecting her massive purchase. The pair leaves the store with their goods as the shopkeeper thanks them for their patronage. Upon arriving at their residence, Sora cheerfully announces that they have finally returned. She drops her heavy bag in the bedroom, relieved to be back in a safe environment. Exhaustion hits her as she looks at the bed, wishing she could fall asleep right that second. Her thought process is interrupted as she realizes there are still tasks that cannot be ignored. She declares that before they can rest, they must take a bath and handle the laundry. Sora points out that Liam's pants are in terrible condition, sticky and crusty from their adventure. Liam apologizes for requesting laundry before his wound is treated, but Sora insists she is the one who should apologize. She reminds him that he was injured protecting her, and they share a moment of mutual remorse. Sora instructs him to take a bath while she prepares the materials to make a potion for his injury. The sound of running water fills the silence as Liam begins to wash off the grime. Steam rises around him as he cleans himself under the stream of water. Water drips down Liam's face as he stands in the shower with a silent, contemplative expression. In the other room, Sora stands before her equipment, wondering how to proceed with the brewing. She realizes they used up their processed stock previously and failed to gather new herbs because of the fall. Determined to make it work, she decides to utilize the equarim they managed to pick and begins processing it. She recalls the tissue grass that had been soaking in water earlier and prepares to incorporate it. Fatigue overtakes her, and she lets out a large yawn while stirring the mixture. Liam emerges from the bath to find Sora sitting on the floor, visibly struggling to stay awake. He tells her the bathroom is free, and she thanks him, promising to go in shortly. Liam offers to handle the laundry while she bathes, prompting Sora to ask if he is sure. He assures her she can take her time, and she heads toward the bath, asking him to wait a moment. Sora reminds him that they must hand over the reward potion by evening, so she cannot take too long. Liam looks at her with concern, insisting that he wants to hurry and treat her injury immediately. Sora stretches her stiff body with a groan of relief, thankful to finally take care of herself. She hums a cheerful tune while walking away, declaring that it is absolutely time for a bath. Liam watches her go, his expression darkening as he calls out her name. Sora stops and turns back, looking at him with a questioning gaze. He asks hesitantly if she had been planning to run away from him earlier. Sora denies it with a soft smile, dismissing the thought before excusing herself to take a break. The sound of rushing water fills the air as Sora washes away the grime of their adventure. Liam sits alone in silence, his mind seemingly weighed down by lingering doubts. He stares into the distance, his expression unreadable as he processes her answer. The quiet atmosphere of the room hangs heavy in the silence. Liam looks up sharply, startled by a sudden presence. Sora emerges with a towel over her head, sighing happily about how refreshed she feels. She asks him to light the cauldron fire later, but he interrupts to offer to dry her hair. Liam blushes and eagerly agrees to help, stating he can do it with no problem. Sora asks if his leg swelling is okay as he stands up to reach her. A gentle breeze of magic flows from his hand, drying her wet hair in an instant. Sora smiles gratefully at the sensation, asking him how it feels. She touches her now dry hair, remarking that having him around is incredibly helpful. She turns to him with a serious look, telling him she is counting on him to do the laundry later. Liam accepts the task with a quiet nod, watching her with a gentle gaze. The story opens with a calm morning as Sora and Liam prepare for the day ahead. The bubbling sound of the cauldron fills the room as the liquid inside reaches a boil. Sora watches the steam rising from the pot, judging the perfect moment to stop the heat. She announces with a smile that the potion is finally complete. However, she notes that they must now wait patiently for it to cool down naturally. Sora explains to Liam that using magic to force the cooling process would result in a flawed potion. Liam admits that he isn't skilled at water magic anyway, so he couldn't help even if he wanted to. They decide to settle in and wait quietly for the temperature to drop on its own. A sudden, sharp knocking at the door startles them from their wait. Sora gasps and jolts awake, realizing she must have dozed off. A voice from outside announces that guests have arrived for her, causing her to panic. She scrambles out of bed, realizing with horror that it is already time for the delivery. Sora shouts through the door, apologizing and asking the visitors to wait just a little longer. Turning back to the cauldron, she realizes in a panic that they haven't portioned the potion into flasks yet. Liam asks how many she intends to give, and Sora hurriedly decides on about 10 of them. As they pour the liquid, Liam questions the amount, suggesting that 10 might be too generous. Sora insists that since these people saved their lives, 10 potions is a fair and necessary repayment. Liam argues that the kids won't understand the value, asking if she is still worried about the stone-throwing incident. He clarifies that he has already moved past that grudge since they apologized. Touching his face thoughtfully, Liam trails off, seemingly unconvinced by her reasoning. Sora cuts him off, declaring that she is giving them 10 potions regardless of his stinginess. Liam turns away with a sulky expression, clearly outvoted but accepting her decision. Sora asks why he is making that face as she finishes packing the bag to head downstairs. Liam stands up abruptly to follow her, offering to carry the load since her leg is still injured. Sora refuses his help, promising to treat her leg immediately after she finishes the delivery. She slips out the door and slams it shut, leaving Liam behind in the room. Liam stands alone in the sudden silence, staring at the closed door. He lets out a heavy sigh, his expression softening with concern for her. Sora hurries down the stairs, her footsteps echoing as she descends to the lobby. She greets the 3 rescuers, bowing her head and apologizing for keeping them waiting. The trio laughs it off, joking that they thought she had forgotten about them entirely. When she hands over the bag, they are shocked to find 10 low-grade potions inside. The kids cheer for Big Sis and her incredible generosity, thanking her profusely for the gift. They wave goodbye, cheekily warning her not to fall into any more holes in the future. Sora watches from the doorway as the 3 happy figures depart into the town. She waves back but grumbles under her breath about how rude they are. Turning around, she is surprised to find Liam standing right behind her at the foot of the stairs. Liam explains he just had a feeling she needed him and scolds her for walking on her sprained ankle. He ushers her back upstairs, stating that it is finally time to treat her injury properly. Back in the room, liquids splash as the treatment begins on the injured limb. Sparkles of magical light erupt around the injury as the potion takes effect. Sora watches the reaction closely and asks Liam how it feels. Liam grips his arm, letting out a soft sound as the sensation washes over him. He looks up with a relieved expression, confirming that the pain has completely vanished. Sora hands him a flask, instructing him to drink one more to be absolutely sure. Liam tilts his head back and downs the potion in one go. He exhales a long breath, feeling the restorative magic work through his system. Liam stands fully recovered, his body glowing with renewed health and energy. Liam stands tall before Sora, seemingly recovered from his injuries as she looks up at him. Heavy footsteps echo through the room as Liam moves closer to comfort her. He reassures her that the pain is gone, causing Sora to let out a long sigh of relief. Tears well up in Sora's eyes as she cries out how incredibly glad she is. She explains that her relief stems from the guilt that he was injured solely to protect her. Liam realizes with a start that she had been deeply worried about him and offers his thanks. Sora apologizes for not listening to him earlier, to which Liam admits he was equally at fault. She bows her head deeply, formally thanking him once more for his protection. Exhaustion catches up to them, and Sora suggests they head to bed early to rest. A finger gently pokes Sora's forehead, surprising her in the quiet moment. She giggles uncontrollably, complaining that the sudden touch tickles. Liam watches her reaction with a soft, affectionate smile on his face. Laughter fills the room as the tension melts away between the two of them. The mood shifts as Sora speaks up into the darkness, signaling a change in topic. Lying in separate beds, she tentatively brings up the events that transpired yesterday. Sora rationalizes the incident, stating she understands his species' traits made it unavoidable after the cliff fall. Liam listens in silence, his expression unreadable in the dim light. She frantically explains that she just happened to be nearby when his instincts took over. Reassuring him, she insists he didn't force her and that she urged him on to end it quickly. She concludes that he was enduring to his absolute limit, framing it as a necessity. Sora proposes that they simply let bygones be bygones and move forward. Liam stares up at the ceiling and quietly agrees to her proposal. He hesitates, murmuring that he feels she only helped him out of guilt because he was injured. Sora is taken aback by his sudden confession and asks him what he means. Liam falls silent, his face partially obscured by the shadows. He turns his back to her, dismissing his previous thought and telling her to never mind. Sora presses him, urging him to speak his mind if he has something to say. He refuses to elaborate, repeating her earlier sentiment that they should leave the past behind. They bid each other good night, ending the conversation on an unresolved note. Sora watches his sleeping form, realizing that he is still deep in thought about something. The next day, a shopkeeper thanks them as they step out into the bright sunlight. Sora frets over the expense, asking if it is really alright to spend so much money on new clothes. Liam holds her hand and walks confidently, assuring her repeatedly that it is fine. He asks for the plan for the day, noting that she looks happy with her change of clothes. Sora outlines their schedule to visit the guild, sell potions, and find a good quest. They arrive at the Grand Guild building, wondering if there are any lucrative jobs available. While checking the request board, a voice calls out Sora's name from behind. Sora turns to see Old Man Miguel approaching them with a greeting. Miguel greets them and immediately demands that Sora lend him her slave. Sora and Liam stand frozen in confusion, processing the sudden and strange request. Liam shoulders a massive blade as he walks alongside Sora, marking the beginning of a potential new quest. Sora asks the man before them if he really thinks borrowing a slave for such a task is acceptable. The guild master waves off the concern, stating he only needs the XP rank adventurer Liam for a few days. Liam stares him down with a sharp glare while the man mocks the intimidation by calling it scary. The man assures them he won't eat the young lady, telling her she has nothing to worry about. He apologizes with a lecherous grin, admitting he prefers women who are more adult and bouncy. Changing the subject, he invites them to sit down so he can explain the request details. Sora and Liam take their seats as the man prepares to reveal the nature of the job. A terrifying image of a beast fills the air as he mentions rumors of an ice dragon appearing in the nearby forest. Liam looks grave, muttering that the presence of an ice dragon is a troublesome development. The guild master glances at Sora, asking if she is perhaps unfamiliar with such creatures. Sora averts her eyes and sweats, stammering a weak lie that she definitely knows about them. The man points to a map, noting the anomaly of an ice dragon coming near Grosso in such a warm climate. Liam agrees, stating he has never heard of one leaving the snow country since they dwell in cold lands. Sora winces internally, realizing her complete lack of knowledge about the monster has been exposed. She asks if the dragon is strong, to which Liam confirms it is impossible for a solo party to defeat. The guild master explains that since Grosso is a merchant town with weak adventurers, they formed a subjugation party. He points directly at Liam, declaring that he wants him to join the team to fight the dragon. Sora turns to her companion, asking Liam what he intends to do about the request. Liam looks down with a heavy gaze, admitting it has been 5 years since he held the title of B rank. He doubts his combat readiness, citing his reduced strength and the lack of a proper weapon. The guild master counters that the party is mostly C rank and argues that Liam's magic is still a valuable asset. He insists that adding a B rank adventurer would drastically improve their barely sufficient fighting force. Sora listens intently, realizing that an ice dragon is a legendary beast of immense power. Liam argues that since he had to restart at F rank, he technically cannot accept a C rank or higher request. The guild master slams the table in annoyance, yelling at him to stop being so noisy about the rules. He shouts that he doesn't care about the official rank requirements for this emergency. Leaning in, he offers to discuss the reward, boasting that as guild master he can pull strings easily. He reveals the reward is 250,000 gold per member and promises to introduce them to a good blacksmith. He adds that plenty of potions will be provided and all loot from the quest will be divided equally. The guild master smirks confidently, asking if they agree that the terms are actually quite good. Sora gulps audibly, completely overwhelmed by the staggering sum of 250,000 gold. Liam asks Sora if she is truly comfortable with him accepting such a dangerous request. Sora hesitates due to the risks but ultimately agrees, provided Liam is okay with it. They reach a consensus to prioritize safety and avoid any unnecessary injuries during the mission. Sora hums in thought, pondering the details of their preparation. Miguel interrupts by pointing at Liam's cloth headband and suggesting he upgrade it. He recommends visiting his blacksmith friend who specializes in armor making. The plan is to commission a metal plate to better conceal and protect Liam's forehead. Sora's eyes light up at the idea, and she agrees that it would be a nice improvement. Enthusiastic, Sora gives Liam the green light to officially accept the guild's request. She reinforces the condition that injuries are absolutely forbidden, and Liam quietly assents. Sora expresses her gratitude to Old Man Miguel for solving the problem of hiding Liam's horns. Miguel abruptly drops the news that the party's departure is scheduled for noon that same day. Panic sets in for Sora as she realizes they have almost no time left to prepare. She tells the guys to do their best and says she will wait for them at the inn. Miguel stops her in her tracks, casually informing her that she is coming along too. Sora freezes in shock, unable to comprehend why she needs to join a dangerous expedition. Miguel argues that it is easier to manage the slave if his supervisor is present. Despite Miguel's assurances, Sora protests that she will only be a burden to the team. He counters that she can simply run away when the battle starts, so there is no issue. He tries to entice her further by mentioning she will also receive a share of the reward. Sora continues to refuse, but Miguel pushes them toward the second floor to get gear. Equipped with a massive sword, Liam stands ready while Sora laments her useless presence. Liam cuts off her self-deprecation, stating there is no way around the situation. He suddenly grabs Sora and hoists her into the air without warning. Ignoring her startled cries, he lifts her completely off the ground to carry her. Sora complains that she is not a child, but Liam remarks on how light she is. He explains that the forest road is rough, so carrying her is the most efficient method. Sora wobbles precariously on his shoulder, and he warns her to hold on tight. She secures her grip, nervously asking if this position is really necessary. From her high vantage point, she comments on how different the view is from his height. Settling down, she quietly accepts the ride as they move through the streets. They arrive at the town gate where the rest of the subjugation party is gathering. A sharp-eyed young man in the crowd catches their attention as they approach. Shouts erupt from the group announcing the arrival of a man named Jake. Sora reunites with her old acquaintance Jake, but the situation is complicated by her possessive demon slave. Jake waves enthusiastically from the street, calling out to Sora and asking if she is also there to suppress the ice dragon. He smiles warmly, asking how she has been and inquiring about Liam's condition. Sora beams with energy, declaring that she is fine and that Liam has healed up perfectly. Without warning, Liam scoops Sora up into his arms with a sudden whoosh of motion. Flustered, Sora demands to be let down immediately while scolding him for the dangerous maneuver. Liam refuses to release her, holding her firmly despite her struggling protests. He stares with intense, unblinking eyes at Jake, causing the other man to sweat nervously under the pressure. Sora notices the awkward tension and hurriedly apologizes to Jake for her companion's rude behavior. Jake stammers that he is fine, though he looks visibly unsettled by the intensity of the stare. Liam continues to glare with piercing hostility, his silence speaking volumes about his possessiveness. Sora turns to Liam, gently instructing him to use his words if there is something he specifically dislikes. She smiles reassuringly, clarifying that she doesn't actually mind his protectiveness, so it is fine. Turning back to Jake, she expresses her gratitude for his help carrying her from the slave trading house earlier. Jake scratches his cheek modestly, explaining that it was simply part of his job since she employed him at the time. Liam murmurs that he understands, his expression remaining serious as he processes this information. A heavy, stagnant atmosphere radiates from Liam, making Jake shudder at the menacing pressure filling the air. Desperate to break the suffocating tension, Jake asks if they are also joining the Ice Dragon subjugation quest. He points towards a group in the distance, indicating that he is participating with his own partners. Sora follows his gaze, looking curiously at the people he indicated standing nearby. Two shady figures whisper amongst themselves, their demeanor secretive and distinctly unwelcoming. Sora offers a tentative greeting but immediately senses a bad feeling coming from the suspicious pair. Jake apologizes with a sheepish smile, admitting that his teammates are unfortunately not very friendly. Guild Master Miguel arrives with a clatter of footsteps, noting that everyone has finally gathered. He addresses the group, thanking the adventurers for assembling to help with the ice dragon hunting. The crowd acknowledges him as he prepares to explain their upcoming travel itinerary. Miguel outlines the route, stating they will exit Grosso and rest at a stream about 3 hours away. He points to the map, explaining that the ice dragon's nest is roughly a half-day march from that point. A voice from the crowd asks about the enemy count, prompting Miguel to check everyone's readiness. Miguel warns them not to let their guard down, confirming they face a single but powerful adult ice dragon. He notes that F-rank adventurers are present this time and requests that the others ensure they are protected. All eyes turn as he specifically points out Sora as the vulnerable member needing protection. A heavy wooden chest is unlocked, the latch clicking loudly in the tense silence. The lid is thrown open to reveal a massive stockpile of medium-grade potions available for the taking. Sora and Liam acknowledge the supply, preparing to arm themselves for the battle ahead. Liam holds Sora securely in his arms, but she asks him to drop her off so she can stand. He hesitates, offering to fetch her share, but she insists on getting down to handle it herself. Sora lands on the pavement with a heavy clatter of gear, startling herself. Liam asks about the strange noise, prompting Sora to grin and grab her coat. She throws her coat open with a dramatic flourish to reveal her secret preparation. Rows of potions are strapped across her chest, showing she came fully loaded for the mission. She explains that she packed as many as she could to ensure she can support everyone. Sora turns to Jake and tells him to simply ask if he needs any supplies during the fight. The group moves to the distribution chest to claim their official allotment of items. The distributor hands out 1 potion per person, and Sora requests her partner's share as well. She accepts the 2 glass bottles with a polite bow of gratitude. Clutching the new potions, she trots back to where Liam is waiting for her. Sora happily presents the medium-grade potions she secured for both of them. Liam looks at the bottle with a solemn expression, hoping they only need to use them to save others. He squeezes the bottle tightly, praying it serves merely as a protective charm. Sora laughs off the heavy atmosphere, declaring her ambition to craft such high-grade potions herself one day. Liam teases her with a smile, asking if she is feeling impatient about her progress as an herbalist. Sora's eyes instantly turn into money signs as she fantasizes about the massive profits of high-level brewing. Liam chuckles at her greed, reminding her that she needs to take things step by step. In the shadows, a hooded figure watches their interaction and clicks his tongue in annoyance. A voice cuts through the chatter, confirming that everyone has received their supplies. The command to depart is given, marking the start of the Ice Dragon subjugation mission. Sora admires the heavy battle armor of the vanguard as the squad begins to move out. Liam turns to Sora and insists on carrying her again, telling her to hold on tight. Sora recoils and refuses, stating firmly that she wants to walk on her own 2 legs. Liam counters that her slow speed could delay the entire group or get her injured. Defeated by his undeniable logic, Sora sighs and agrees to let him carry her. She prepares herself and hops up into his waiting arms. Liam lifts her effortlessly as she points forward, declaring the start of their dragon-slaying adventure. A beat of silence passes as Liam fails to react to her enthusiastic cry. Sora leans in and scolds him, demanding he shout, "Aye," to match the mood. Liam sighs that she is too energetic, while she complains about his lack of emotion. As they enter the forest, Sora notes that they have never gathered herbs in this specific area. Liam explains that the rocky terrain makes it a high-risk zone for dangerous demons. Sora gazes into the dense trees, absorbing the reality of the dangers surrounding them. The hooded figure approaches them from behind, noticing the tension in the air. He asks what is worrying them, though Liam quickly dismisses it as nothing. The man grabs Sora's attention, asking if he can speak with her for a second. Sora looks visibly displeased by the interruption but reluctantly agrees to listen. She asks impatiently what he wants to talk about as they continue moving. The man looms over her, promising that the conversation will be finished quickly. Under the forest canopy, he begins to speak, addressing her with a serious tone. He asks a probing question about Liam, suggesting that dealing with an Oni every night must be problematic. Liam freezes in the distance, his eyes narrowing dangerously as he watches Sora chatting happily with Jake. Jake drops a bombshell question, asking Sora what she means by the difficulty of dealing with an Oni every night. Sora stares blankly at him, completely failing to grasp the scandalous implication of his words. Jake explains with a serious face that Oni are known for their insatiable sexual drives and must copulate nightly. Sora turns pale as she realizes he thinks she is sleeping with Liam every single night to satisfy him. She screams in denial, furious that he thinks she is some kind of lecherous pervert. Jake tilts his head in confusion, having no idea what the word lecherous even means. Sora feels a chill and spots Liam emitting a terrifying, dark aura from behind the trees. She desperately clarifies that their relationship is strictly platonic and she doesn't do that. Sora bluntly reveals that Liam takes care of his own business in the bathroom, shocking Jake. She smiles and reassures him that she is not forced to participate in those activities either. Jake murmurs that it must be torture for an Oni to restrain himself like that. He looks relieved, saying he is glad she doesn't have to endure that kind of burden. Sora thanks him for his concern, though she sweats nervously at the half-truth. Internally, she panics, knowing she can never admit she actually helps calm Liam down with her hands. Jake smiles kindly, telling her to reach out to him if she ever finds herself in trouble. Sora nods and offers the same support to him, addressing him with friendly familiarity. Skylar interrupts with a glare, demanding to know how long she plans to monopolize Jake. He stares her down coldly, asking if she intends to let him go anytime soon. Sora flinches and apologizes profusely for taking up so much of their time. Skylar turns to Jake and orders him to hurry up and return to their squad. Jake agrees with a sheepish smile, acknowledging his teammates' impatience. However, Jake asks for just a moment more, causing Skylar to question his hesitation. Skylar scoffs, mocking Jake's kindness toward such a small, scrawny weakling. He suddenly points a finger at Sora, demanding she listen closely to his warning. Skylar threatens to show no mercy if she plans on stealing their main damage dealer away. Sora waves her hands frantically, shouting that she has zero intention of doing that. Skylar invades her personal space, his looming presence making her cower in fear. He steps back with a smirk, claiming he was just testing her to ensure she wasn't a threat. A hand grips Skylar's wrist with crushing force, stopping him mid-sentence. Liam glares icy daggers at Skylar, declaring that the conversation has gone on long enough. He drags Sora away by her shoulder while Skylar winces in pain from the iron grip. Liam releases his grip on her hand, his fingers sliding away as the physical connection breaks. He pulls his hand back completely, his expression unreadable as the moment of intimacy ends. Jake flinches and lets out a weird noise, clearly feeling the awkward tension in the air. Skylar aggressively confronts them, asking if they just felt like interrupting her group's conversation. Liam ignores the provocation and calmly tells Sora that they should just leave. Skylar shouts for them to wait, refusing to let them walk away so easily. Jake tries to restrain his partner, begging Skylar to stop, but she ignores him and demands to be heard. Skylar snaps at Jake to shut up, her eyes locked intensely on Liam. She insults Sora by calling her a chibi, and asks Liam if he is serving her because she has some weakness on him. She ignores the tension and boldly asks Liam if he wouldn't prefer to join their party instead. She praises his face and physique, promising that coming with them would grant him access to high-rank requests. Sora looks on in shock as Skylar points out that the guild master himself identified Sora as a mere F-rank adventurer. Skylar presses the attack, arguing that he would earn far more money teaming up with them than with her. Liam remains completely silent, his cold gaze fixed on the woman trying to recruit him. Jake tries to intervene again, asking why she is butting in, but Skylar tells him to shut up. Jake sweats nervously, admitting to himself that while her delivery is awful, her logic isn't exactly wrong. Sora reflects internally that if Liam couldn't fight, he wouldn't have been the person by her side initially. She thinks about their current reality of making a modest living by selling the potions they brew together. She realizes that Liam didn't choose this low-level, slow grind and could easily handle high-rank quests. A shadow falls over her thoughts as she acknowledges he is staying with her despite all his potential. The realization hits her that she never really considered he has to follow her simply because she is his owner. She admits to herself that Liam never wanted this lifestyle or the status of a slave in the slightest. She knows he is in a hard situation, even if she personally finds joy in the time they spend together. She tries to reassure herself that she is giving him the best treatment of all his previous masters. She guesses he won't try to abandon their current lifestyle, but doubts begin to cloud her mind. She wonders if his loyalty is just the attitude of a slave and questions if this is really what Liam wants. Liam suddenly notices her distress and calls out her name, breaking her train of thought. He asks what is wrong, but Sora forces a smile and insists that it is absolutely nothing. Jake steps in to admonish Skylar that she has said enough, though she protests that she isn't finished. Jake apologizes to Sora and Liam for the trouble, suggesting they talk later to defuse the situation. Sora apologizes to Liam, but he interrupts to offer to carry her, asking her to hold on tight. Sora declines the offer with a troubled expression, stating she wants to walk the rest of the way herself. Liam accepts her decision without argument, and they hurry forward to continue their journey.